overarching goal is one thing, and that's to win a world championship and bring a parade and the title to San Diego.
I mean, I can remember the last time San Diego had a team like this and had excitement like this around baseball.
The overachiever on the team, I'll go first on this one. I think this young man is going to have a monster season, and his name's Jake Cronenworth.
Based on what we finished last year and the guys we brought in, it was pretty easy as far as, what we expect and what our goals are.
Meanwhile, the Marlins have closed out the Pirates at PNC Park and have therefore closed out the Padres. Chances, slim as they were, at a postseason berth here in 2023.
Welcome in, everybody. Ben and Woods, 97.3 The Fan. Today is, it's October 2nd, 2023. Also known in this industry of baseball that we cover as Black Monday. And we will see just how dark it gets here in our fair city, America's finest city, San Diego. Thank you for being here this morning. Really, really great to see all of you in the chat already, active on social media. You can listen on your radio dial at 97.3 FM. You can listen on the Odyssey app, YouTube as well. Search Ben and Woods. Search 97.3 The Fan on Twitch. Some Ben and Woods in you this morning, and should be an interesting show to be sure. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl. He's our executive producer. Good morning, Paulie.
Good morning.
It's a brilliant open that you put together. Hated every second of it, especially my predictions. We will get to our predictions later in the show. We've got them all on tape, on record.
Nailed it.
Ben Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor, is very, very tired, and he is here to my left.
Did we get ahead of ourselves? Did we?
Yes.
I mean, well, we weren't the only ones.
No, we weren't.
We were not.
I take a little comfort in the fact that, Mark DeRosa and Ken Rosenthal and Jeff Passan and everybody else that makes a lot more money than we do have all picked the Padres to have a good season, and they did not. They did not have a good season, despite what many will tell you. Ben brought his. Why do you have a rag and a bottle of silver polish with you? Because he brought in his turd polishing kit this morning.
You can't polish the season. I think you can still give them credit for finishing strong. Maybe I'm crazy in that, but winning 14 of your last 16 is still an accomplishment. Nothing makes sense about this team this year. Nothing made sense. You never see a team that fails to meet high expectations finish strong when they've been eliminated. You see them absolutely, the knives come out, the team plays its worst, everybody falls apart. We got backstabbing. That's all you get at the end of the season.
We got 5 months of that. At some point, again, the tides were going to have to turn. But we got 5 months of backstabbing, things out of the clubhouse, articles, speculation, very poor play, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, an 82-80 record for me it almost makes me even more mad.
Oh yeah,
I'm livid.
The final record is not anything to be proud of in this season. 82-80 does nothing for me. I just want to figure out what happened the last. Was it simply playing bad teams? They definitely had
they played
a weak
ton.
schedule, but they also took 6 straight series at the end of the year, starting with one against the Dodgers. Beat the Giants 2 out of 3 as well. Yeah, they took the A's, swept the White Sox for sure. But what changed? Was it simply the lifting of the pressure? Is that all it took, was to lift the pressure and the expectations? Or did something else change, 3 or 4 weeks ago? Is Matt Batten really the key going forward? You build your team around Matt Batten and say, hey, this is the answer. Because if you don't understand why you played better at the end of the year versus poorly at the beginning of the year, you don't learn any lessons from this season. What's your lesson that you learned from this season?
The only lesson I think that you can take away from the season, I'm speaking for me, is don't ever believe your own hype, right? You still, stupid Joe Davis, that's why they play the games, or whoever it was, Oral, Hershiser, old Butterteeth himself. They were right. That is why you play the games. I think 100% people bought into the hype, and by people, I mean the 26 guys in that locker room. And I think there is a problem in baseball. You know it is, man. 162-game season, there is a time where you're like, man, we are playing like ass right now. We're getting picked off. We're, kicking the ball around a little bit. We're bullpen's not, not coming in, competing, throwing strikes. But we'll be fine. I'm looking around. I'm looking around this room. We're going to be okay. I think that's a natural inclination. And I certainly don't fault them for that. But yeah, you heard constantly about don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We preach that message just because experience has taught us, loving the game of baseball as much as we all do, has taught us that, yeah, eventually this team will start to click. Now, the pressure being off and really 10 games, 11 games below 500, I would say that's very little pressure. And you're like, okay, what do we got to lose now? I do, and I have, and I will continue to say, I'd love to see more urgency early in the season next year. I said it last week. I'll stand by it, and I'm going to stand by it through the course of next year.
Isn't urgency pressure, though? Isn't that when you play with urgency, you feel like, hey, we've got to win this one or else? That's urgency.
I think,
but that's pressure. At the end of the season, there wasn't any urgency because they didn't have to win. They knew that they couldn't do anything about it.
But I think here's what I mean. There's one person that's kind of almost infallible to it. It doesn't matter who the manager is. The manager cannot manage in April, May, June, July like it's Game 7. He just can't. You cannot do it. You will burn your guys out. The players, though, need to continue. They need to play kind of like it's Game 7. Don't give away at bats. Don't give away, easy double plays. Don't give away base running. Don't do stupid things on the base paths. The players have to play a full 162. The manager has to be somewhat careful.
And holding them back a little bit.
I think
that's a really good point, Woods, because if Bob Melvin did something wrong, or you can blame A.J. Preller even more than Bob Melvin here, it's that he had to play all of his stars early in the season because they were struggling.
Yep.
And they didn't have a lot of depth. It felt like every day, I can't bench
Soto.
We've lost 3 out of 4. We got to win this next one. I can't bench Tatis and Soto and Machado. I can't give them a rest, not bench them, but I can't sit them down.
Not for Cruz,
right.
Carpenter, and Odor.
So Melvin kept managing as though, hey, every game is critical and we got to win. But the players weren't necessarily playing that way early in the season. You got to reverse that.
Correct.
The players, they need to be held back. They got to play like it's Game 7 of the World Series, and then the manager dials them back a little bit.
Correct.
And it was the opposite for the Padres this year.
That's exactly right. And it's the most frustrating, impossible to imagine balance that a manager has to have. I think it's very special that Juan Soto played 162 games. I'm happy for him. It's something it was a goal of his. Great. He hit his goal. And, you do have to let guys hit their way out of it, especially core pieces, right? Austin Nola got way too many at-bats early in the season. Why? Because there weren't any better options. And I think, you talk about putting some of the blame on A.J. Preller, and I do, because early in the season, when the big four weren't clicking at all, and Tatis maybe even hadn't come back yet, when the big three weren't clicking at all, the black holes in the lineup, the guys that you can't give him that many ABs if he's struggling. Gary Sanchez was still sitting out there for someone to grab. You grabbed him, and it was just a little bit too late. Campusano going down, I think, torpedoed this team more than it absolutely should have early in the season. I'm not going to blame it all on the catching spot. The designated hitters, they were just designated. They didn't hit. They didn't hit at all. The bullpen gas cans early in the season could not get it on track. When pitchers went down, the depth wasn't there in the minor leagues to come up and give you a fighting chance. So there was a lot that went wrong, obviously. Very little, in fact, went right until the heat was off. The heat on the oven was turned down, and there was really no pressure. And it's hard for me, I don't want to be negative Nancy here, but Like, I'm looking at the 82-80 record, and I'm like, you can't hang your hat on a winning season because it just didn't feel like a winning season.
You spent $255 million. You thought on a World Series or at least a playoff run, but instead,
a playoff run.
All you got for $255 million was a very, very expensive lesson. But what was that lesson? I mean, we're sitting here at the end of the season, and I'm not 100% sure that we know or that the Padres know what the lesson was that we just spent $255 million learning. Did A.J. Preller learn something this season? Did he learn a lesson from $255 million spent
I'm sure
on this roster? Did Bob Melvin learn a lesson about managing? Did the players learn a lesson about, how to handle the pressure of that kind of expectations at the beginning of the year? Or did no one learn a dang thing from a $255 million mistake? That would be the true crime. If you don't at least take something out of your failures this season that makes you better going forward, then it truly was money that was lit on fire.
Well,
$250 million lit on fire this season for not even a painful lesson.
They're going to both of those parties that you mentioned in A.J. Preller and Bob Melvin. They're going to say that they learned lessons, right? Certainly. And today, allegedly, is that day. Big meeting down at Petco Park. We've all heard about it. We don't know the particulars of when and where, and we know a couple of the who's that are going to be there. But there's no way. I mean, I watched the game. I watched every single game. I watched yesterday, and I'm like, these SOBs, man. I swear to God, running out. One of the best record in baseball over the last month of the season. It actually made it, and I don't, draft pick and all that. Sure, you'd love to have a higher pick. What are we going to do? Would we expect to see him in the majors here with this uniform anytime soon? No, I don't, because you just haven't really. So it's very frustrating. Padre fans very frustrated. I think rightfully so. There was a lot that came out yesterday. I got a little spicy on Twitter. Probably should have just gone outside and taken a walk around the block. I didn't. I decided not to.
This was a test.
Yeah.
Since you came back to the forum, to X, to Twitter after you left for so many months and you returned. Can you still walk away? You need to be able to walk away if it's not going well for you.
And I don't, the thing is it doesn't, I don't let it consume my day anymore.
Good.
That's the deal. And I, responded to some and some people agreed and some people don't. That's the nature of what we do. And that's the nature of certainly Twitter. But I can't call it X. It's just weird. It's the nature of Twitter. But I probably should have touched some grass yesterday or grabbed a boob or something, and I didn't. And I just, it's just a long, and we'll explain, if you missed it, some comments that you heard after the season ended. I'm assuming that's when those comments came out by Xander Bogaerts, but he's not the only one. Every single one of those guys has done nothing but eat cleat all season long. Foot right in mouth. The stories that keep coming out on a daily basis about this team. I'm so ready for a nice, clean slate. Spring training, hope springs eternal, as we all know. I'm really looking forward to next season. I am. But the keen eye and less blind buy-in it's changed me. This season has changed me dramatically. And, I want to ask some of these guys some of these questions next year. Should we be allowed to go to spring training? I want to ask them, hey, man, why don't you guys have each other's backs? It was obvious. Like, Manny, how do you feel when your guys don't get off the bench when you get dotted? Fernando, you spent most of the season on your ass. Guys throwing inside at you. What does it feel like? Honestly, that's a fair question. Are you guys a team? Or do you guys just come in, do your job, leave, win or lose? It doesn't matter. How much do you want to win for the city? I mean, I think that's the important part. And when you read quotes like I read yesterday, it's tough, man. It's tough for a fan that just slogged through 162. Nothing's. That's the other thing we have to remember as fans, and it's hard. Nothing is promised to you. There's never anything promised to you. And I think as a fan, we have to look at what we want from our team and our players. Number one, the thing I want, team above all else, right? Team above me. City above me. Playing for the fans. The fans come first. They pack that stadium all season long to the tune of 3 million plus. Play for each other. That stuff is great. I mean, that is what sports are all about. And you see it on other teams, you want it here. That's really where I'm coming from.
It's hard to shake the mentality in baseball, though. If I'm doing well for myself, I'm helping the team.
Correct.
Which is generally true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're mashing at the plate and you're playing great defense in the field, you feel like you're a good team player.
Right, because you're doing your job.
Because you're doing your job, yet there's something more, there's something missing. And
there was definitely something missing.
Yeah,
I think we can all agree.
We'll be talking about that. Obviously, next year is going to look, sounds like quite a bit different from what we're hearing. We'll get into that this morning, the reports of the payroll reduction for the San Diego Padres, what it all means. We'll talk about that. We will continue to break down the season, obviously look back. Sam Levitt will be with us as he always does on Monday. What a great job by Sammy all year. 159, he said, out of the 162 or 158 that he did, wrapping it up this weekend. Before that, though, Jordan Shusterman will join us on a grand old Monday from Cespedes Family Barbecue. Look at the playoff matchups that do not include the San Diego Padres, but there's playoff baseball tomorrow, everybody. There's no
Cannot wait.
Big deep breath. It's jump right into October baseball
all week,
tomorrow.
Baby. All week long.
We got games coming up, so we'll talk about it. A huge football weekend. We'll get into that as well at some point, but mostly it's post-mortem on the most disappointing baseball season in San Diego history by a wide margin. Daily Ditty is coming up next, though, and I have gifted the theme to Woods.
Thank you very much.
You put in a little extra work this weekend.
Yeah, well,
some of you may be aware.
We all did.
We will get to that coming up next on San Diego's #1 sports station. Get our first check of traffic on a Monday morning. We're into the week here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Man, I just discovered this band, and it's actually embarrassing. They're an older band from England, and the name of the band is called The Sound. And the theme this week is singers that met an untimely demise.
Ooh, okay.
So there's plenty of those. I don't know how I found these guys, but they were around in the late 70s, early 80s, and I mean, they were right there with like U2 and Echo and the Bunnymen when they were coming up. And every other band around them made it. But, like, crank it a little bit, Paulie. Oh, why do I hear myself? There we go. Isn't that good? So their singer had some issues in his life, and he jumped in front of a train. Adrian Borland was his name. So singers that met an untimely demise.
Okay, but that can be different ways.
Absolutely. I mean, think about Sam Cooke. We love Sam Cooke. He was shot to death. There's a million. I mean, so many singers have met the untimely demise. The Grim Reaper came too soon. But this band, I have been listening to this record over and over. And again, they're called The Sound. Really, really good stuff. And that song is called Sense of Purpose.
We're going to take some of your phone calls today.
Oh, yeah.
Post-mortem on the Padres. If you want to get in early, 833-288-0973. I do want in the last couple of minutes, though, to go through the playoff matchups that we did get. A bunch of teams clinched on Saturday was the big clinching day in Major League Baseball, including the Miami Marlins, who clinched a playoff berth on Saturday. You know, I was surprised by this. This is just the fourth playoff appearance ever in franchise history for the Miami Marlins, even though they have 2 World Series titles. So 2 of the 3 times they've been into the playoffs, they've won the World Series. They've won the whole thing. This will be their 4th visit to the playoffs. The Rangers clinched on Saturday, even though they kind of backed their way in and ended up losing the division yesterday to the Houston Astros.
By a game, right?
Also clinched on Saturday, as did the Blue Jays. So there were no playoff spots up for grabs yesterday, just that division title. But yeah, by 1 game. They had the tiebreaker, but they lost. And the Astros won. They beat the Diamondbacks 8-1. So the Houston Astros win their 3rd straight AL West title. Rangers then get bumped into the wild card matchup. And as you look, starting tomorrow, you got 3 straight days of wild card games. The American League will be the early games every single day. Starting at noon, you'll have the Texas Rangers and the Tampa Bay Rays. That's a pretty big drop-off on the last day of the season, going from we've got a bye waiting until the division series to now we are on the road facing the team that had the 2nd-best record in our league, the Tampa Bay Rays, and have to take 2 out of 3 from them. So it was a bad weekend for the Texas Rangers, even though they got in. They've got a tough matchup. Then it's Toronto, the Blue Jays, at the Minnesota Twins. That's a 1:30 start on ESPN tomorrow. Then the National League games come up later. 4 o'clock, the Arizona Diamondbacks visit the Milwaukee Brewers on ESPN2. And at 5 o'clock, the Miami Marlins take on the Philadelphia Phillies on ESPN. So all the games are on ABC, ESPN, or ESPN2 over the next 3 days. And then once Thursday's done, you'll be down to your final 8 in Major League Baseball.
I mean, it's crazy. And I tweeted the other day, obviously we're big Skip Schumacher fans on this show, but I said of all the wild things that happened this season in Major League Baseball, the Orioles going on their magnificent run and winning the AL East, I think everybody looked at the Orioles and said, oh, yeah, they've got somewhat of a shot. I think, I can't remember the percentage. To win the East is staggering. There's no question. But,
win 100 games.
Yeah, win 100 games. It's really, really insane. So the only thing that rivals that
they
for
won
me.
it in 2014, and then before that it was 97.
Right. Yeah, the only thing that even rivals what the Orioles were able to do this season is what the Marlins were able to do. I mean, we had Skip on early in the season. We said, bro, you got looking up and down that division. The Mets were supposed to be really, really special. They spent, even more than the Padres did here. The teams in that division, Ben, the fact that they're in a wild card right now. By the way, losing Yuri Perez, losing Sandy Alcantara, Luis Arias is hitting on one leg right now. There's a mentality, there's a toughness. Skip talked about it. He told a great story. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Josh Bell was in their lineup, fouled one off of his knee. The exit velo on the ball off of his knee was 26 miles an hour. Actually, no, I think he got hit in the knee. So he goes, I'm not coming out of the game. He goes, I'm not coming out of the game. And Skip said, this is the mentality we've been trying to preach here. He said, Scott Rowland, he goes, when I played in St. Louis, Scott Rowland said, oh, if you foul one off yourself in the box, don't even step out of the box. Just stay in the box. That's the mentality you have to have. He goes, these guys have been fighting like this all year. The acquisitions they made at the deadline, congrats to Kim Eng. She did a phenomenal job getting Jake Berger, a couple other dudes that have really, really helped them down the stretch. And, here they are, fighting and had a bunch of stuff thrown their way in the last week or so of the season. And here they are. They're in the playoffs. I don't know how they're going to do against the Phillies, but just getting there for them was a major accomplishment.
Just quickly, can you take your skip-colored glasses off? Is he the manager of the year?
He should be.
In the National League. Well, you say that.
But, you look
Torey Lovullo's Diamondbacks have the same record. They're in the playoffs, too. That's just as big of a surprise, I would say, as the Miami Marlins getting there.
Snitker,
what they've done,
been staggering.
Sometimes you don't give a manager credit when you've got a ton of talent, but the Braves were by far the best team. He's got to get some credit. I know it galls everyone to say it, but everyone thought the Dodgers were going to take a huge step back this year. They won 100 games.
Yep.
Dave Roberts is going to get some votes. And I think quietly, Craig Counsell is one of the guys who never gets any credit as a manager.
Sneaky.
And I know they had a disappointing end last year to the season, but the Brewers tend to be there every single year. They wanted another division.
They're right there in the mix.
92 games without payroll ever. I mean, that's a team that always has one of the lower payrolls in the National League, yet they keep doing it every single year. I think you can make an argument for any one of those 5 guys actually to win National League Manager of the Year this year, but obviously we're pulling for Skip in this chamber, but you can make an argument for a bunch of different guys.
While we're doing some Marlins loving, I wanted to point out the coolest picture I've seen in a long time, like in Major League Baseball history, was what the Marlins posted on Saturday night whenever they clinched, of Kim Eng in the locker room getting doused with the beer and the champagne. For the first female GM to lead a team to the playoffs like that, I mean, she has broken barriers throughout her career. And to see that picture, I was like, that's iconic.
That's pretty cool.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was really awesome. I'm happy for all those guys. They're 3 guys on that staff are big tier 1s as well, which is really, really cool to know. And, man, it's going to be great. I love the playoffs.
Tough matchup in Philly, though.
Really tough, dude.
That's tough to do in 2 out of 3.
Now for us, it's feet up, watch some really, really good baseball. That's it's the only. If you love baseball like I love baseball, the playoffs, you just live for them. There's nothing like them. We all remember how good we felt last year. Many, many other cities are getting to experience that year. It stings, but I'm watching every single pitch.
Fun fact: 1 year ago today, the Padres clinched a playoff spot.
Yeah, fun.
All right, let's come back. The phone lines are open, 833-288-0973. What was the $255 million lesson the Padres should have learned this season in your mind? Hey, fans spent some coin going to Petco Park this year. What lessons do you take out of this season? Give us a call, 833-288-0973. Our phones are open. We're reacting to the Padres. It is a Monday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Tune in to Kickoff with Boomer Esiason and Mike Valeni every week. Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. Also now Friday nights at 6 p.m. I'm seeing here. Right here on 97.3 The Fan and always live on the free Odyssey app, presented nationally by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos brought to you by those who drink it and by Lowe's. Lowe's knows home improvement. You guys were sweating out our Survivor pick last night, our second go-around on the Survivor picks. Once again, Woodsy goes with the Chiefs week 1.
Against the Jets.
And they nearly,
again,
and some could have argued, probably should have lost that game.
Should have lost that game. Let's save our NFL chatter, though.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it coming up. But our phones are open, 833-288-0973. What's the $255 million lesson for the Padres this season? Give us a call. We'll take your calls right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto family, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Lowe's. Well, the crash has cleared out of lanes on westbound King Freeway at the 15. Unfortunately, you're still pretty backed up all the way from Federal. We're not showing any incidents or accidents in the Coronado Bridge, but we are showing it pretty much backed up full span all the way over to the island. Lowe's knows fall is the perfect time for outdoor projects. Right now, you can keep your yard looking its best and save. Take care of leaves with leaf blowers, starting at just $89.98. Lowe's knows home improvement. While supplies last, see store for details. And Kelly Danick with Ben and Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
I think there's going to be a narrative out there, especially considering the Mets, the Yankees, and the Padres all failed to make the playoffs, that
Manfred licking his chops.
It's not about money. This is baseball. It's about heart and hustle. And, money is not that important. It still is important. If that's the lesson you're taking from the season, that, payroll is irrelevant. It all comes down to what you do on the field. I think that is erroneous. I still think payroll, for the most part, is going to be the most telling aspect of whether a team is going to have a chance to be really competitive or not. You look at the teams that were at the bottom of payroll, like the A's and the Royals, and there were really, truly awful teams that didn't spend money on their teams. You have to spend at least a certain threshold. You need talent to win in Major League Baseball. But once you've got that talent, once you spent some on talent, it then does become about more than just putting the talent on the field.
Yeah, it's interesting, too. You saw the Mariners get close. Again, you saw what they did last year in the postseason. We're going to talk to Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue at 8:35. He's a Mariners fan. I don't know if you guys were following this yesterday, but there was a lot of hubbub going around after they got eliminated. Cal Raleigh, their catcher, kind of one of the team's vocal leaders, came out and said, "This sucks." After the run we had last year, we were promised, they were going to spend some money on this team. They didn't do it. They didn't really add anybody, and here we are. And he goes, "You got to do it." He goes, "You got to spend money to get some talent." And he's like, "Nothing against the guys here, but it's a real shot in the face." And then Scott Service came out and said, well, he's got to control his emotions better. Then Raleigh comes out again and says, "I'm not going to apologize for wanting to win." I think, obviously money doesn't solve everything. Spending money the right way and spending money smartly. The team, I really admire those teams, guys, that are able to think about the Braves. I know we beat them like a dead horse, but think about the Braves saying, "Okay, Freddie, see you later." Right? And we'll just go get Matt Olson, who hit 54 bombs this year. It's like there's something in that. Look at
and not because, they thought Freddie was over the hill.
Oh,
even.
yeah.
He's
in the MVP hunt as well.
Great player. But they continued to win without him.
Yeah.
And that's remarkable when you think about it.
The Houston Astros being comfortable enough to let Carlos Correa, the absolute heartbeat of their team, the passionate, fiery leader, say, "Sorry, man,
and they win another division title without him.
You're kind of falling apart a little bit. We got this young kid coming up. The Patriots were lauded for doing this in football every single year. It worked for them until it didn't. There's something that I don't want to side with don't pay guys, because I'm a fan of paying guys their money, but it's paying the right guys. It's being smart and not just throwing stuff at the wall sometimes and hoping that it sticks, which I feel like there's been a lot of that here. Some pretty savvy moves that AJ Preller and company have made? Absolutely. Waka, Lugo, there's a bunch of those. You got to give credit where credit's due. But
the problem is the contracts that you gave them.
Correct.
You were all in on this year because there were so many different options,
Right.
and now it's like great. They were great signings for this year.
Yeah, but they were still pitching for their dinner. Like, if it goes well, I'm going to get a bigger payday and probably leave. And if it doesn't go well, hey, I'm still getting paid. If this team were in the playoffs, different story entirely, but they're not.
Let's go out to the phones. 833-288-0973. We got our friend Chief kicking us off here on a Monday morning.
Long
Chief,
time.
how are you?
Hey, good morning, fellas. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, buddy.
Good. So here's the $250 million question from my perspective. Trust. I think A.J. Preller needs to be able to trust Bo Mel. Bo Mel needs to be able to rebuild that trust if they are going to coexist next season. And I'd like to think September was kind of the proof that, hey, this team could do it. They were just, unfortunately, 2 games a little too late. But if we could have replicated September, if that was our season, we're looking at a 120-game win season.
100%.
We're looking at literally a record season out of all baseball, not just a Padres franchise. But I think after all that information came out in the last couple of weeks, I'd like to hope that it was A.J. Preller who kind of took a step back, a little self-reflection, and thought to himself, you know what, I put this team together. I brought in Bo Mel. I just got to trust that they can do it. And in September, they proved that they could.
And that's funny because they started playing their best baseball when a lot of this stuff was kind of out. And, there were rumors and this, that, and the other and, conjecture early in the season, Chief. But this team started playing its best baseball. Now, I don't know that they were rallying around Bo Mel. I don't know that they were rallying around each other. I just know that when you turned the fire down on the oven and reduced it to a simmer with really no chance of making the playoffs, they started playing really, really well. And, I know they've gotten testy about their own comments that they made. I know that. We know what happened with Hader. We know Manny got a little testy this year. Everybody's been a little testy because, well, they don't like losing, and they don't want to be embarrassed.
Cronenworth, Xander, Soto.
Everybody to a man almost, especially, like I said yesterday, somebody tweeted that, well, it's very clear that Juan Soto is the problem. He's not liked in that clubhouse. And I said, well, I know that him and Fernando Tatis Jr. are extremely tight. Extremely, extremely tight. I think all of the so-called Big Four, they've all been the main character this year at some point. They all have. It's sometimes you look at it and you're like, it's definitely Soto. Then you look at it and you go, it's definitely Tatis. The body language, whatever you want to say. Oh, it's definitely Manny.
I was trying to think. I don't remember Tatis stepping on anything. Like, he was pretty good this year, comment-wise, with the media. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
More so of like, mopey, sad, that type of deal. That's at least what I saw and read, almost on a daily basis. When things weren't going well for him, the defense never slipped. It never suffered. He was phenomenal. Should win the Platinum Glove. He was amazing. But every one of those guys has been the main character at some point this season, and that can't go down. That can't happen. So whatever they're doing today, again, I really hope that there's some sort of hey, let's get together and become that monster that we thought we could be, because the talent's obviously there. Guys got to get healthy. I give a lot of credit to Soto for playing those 162. I give a lot of credit to Fernando Tatis Jr. for playing as many games as he did, more so than any in his career, with a 20-game suspension. I give a lot of credit to Manny Machado for playing hurt. I give a lot of credit to Xander Bogaerts for playing hurt, early in the season and grinding and finishing strong. I do give them credit for that. I don't give them credit for some of the things they've said this year.
Is one of the lessons, one of the $255 million lessons from this season, that the Padres need more consistency? And what I'm saying is, they went out and A.J. Preller went out and tried to improve the team as much as he could on the margins, thinking that Nelson Cruz and Matt Carpenter might be the answer, and a clever platoon, left-right, veteran DH assignment. When bringing back Brandon Drury, he ended up hitting 27 bombs this year for the Los Angeles Angels. Are you sometimes better off just keeping players in place And is that really hard to do when you had a disappointing season? I mean, it's going to be almost impossible to run it back, quote unquote.
You can't
next year because of the departing free agents and possible payroll constraints and reductions. So you're not necessarily going to bring it back, but you could bring back your manager and not start over with a sixth different manager in the AJ Preller tenure. You could have at least that as part of your consistency when guys show up at spring training in February. They're not going to have to meet a brand new coaching staff and a brand new manager and get used to a new way of doing things all spring. They'll at least have a set of expectations and a guy that they have a comfort level with. But then again, is that a mistake? When you have a really disappointing season and you don't make major changes, you just let a Cy Young winner potentially walk away and a closer walk away, are you setting yourself up for an even worse season the next year? What's the right answer? What's the lesson?
What's the recipe for success next year when you lose the Cy Young Award winner? You're now potentially talking about trading the best player on your team in Juan Soto, at least certainly the best offensive player that you have and have had in a long, long time. How do you replace three guys in the rotation? Yeah, I mean, if you're Bob Melvin, you're like, I mean, he says he wants to come back, says that he's got a year left on his deal. It's $4 million. I would say Bob's got a little leverage this morning based on, if you missed it this weekend, Gabe Kapler being fired on Friday, Buck Showalter being fired yesterday. And I think there's a little leverage there because either one of those jobs Bob Melvin could probably have if he wants.
Well, I mean, what leverage for what? Leverage to what? Do we need to convince anybody that Bob, if you weren't convinced that Bob's the right guy,
I am. I'm talking about the front office there.
Well, okay.
Do you want him to go to a division rival in the San Francisco Giants?
Yeah, does it not give AJ Preller pause when he thinks, hey, we got to get a different manager in here, I can't work with this guy, that there are other teams chomping at the bit, according to reports, to hire Bob Melvin away? Isn't that red flag? Like, I shouldn't be letting this guy get away? If he is this a desired of a commodity around baseball, and I've got him, and we had to do some work to get him here. We had to talk him out of a deal with the Oakland A's and convince them to let him go and get him down here, and that was less than 2 years ago. And now we're willing to just go ahead and start over again with someone else. Is that not a red flag?
It's a massive red flag. Just a massive red flag in a whole line full of red flags. So I think there's no question it's a red flag. And again, he'll have either one of those jobs should he want them when the season ends if he's let go today.
All right, let's go to the phones again. Let's go line 3. I see a name on my board. I got no idea how to pronounce it. Who's this on the air? You there? Hello.
Okay.
A very quietly pronounced name. All right, let's go to our friend Craig is out there. Craig, good morning. Welcome to 97.3 The Fan.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, buddy.
I think the positives, we got a winning season. Didn't quite make it, but I think the $250 million question is micromanagement, like the previous guy said, needs to go away. And we need to let our guys play. We need to let our guys coach. And what's impressive is the guys that stepped up from some of our injured players that couldn't finish the season out, kind of the lower depth level, they came up and made things happen and made it exciting to, I was rooting on just for that 82-80 season, have a winning season. That, to me, is a big plus going into next year.
It doesn't do a lot for me, just to be honest with you, man. I do appreciate the call, and I'm not crapping on your opinion. I'm not. I mean, if you want to feel that way, I think you're absolutely entitled to feel that way. It doesn't do a lot for me. It's not something today I would hang my hat on if I were Bob Melvin or AJ Preller, right? If I'm walking into the big meeting today and be like, well, it's a winning season. I mean, it's like, I get it. I totally understand. They were so far below 500. The fact that they did reach 500 and get above it, sure. I mean, I thought there's no way it's going to happen.
But would it be that much different if they had lost yesterday and they were 81-81?
No, not really.
No, it wouldn't be different at all.
No, not
if they had lost that game in extra innings yesterday, nothing of the lessons Nothing that we went through this season.
80 and 82.
Changed nothing at all. If they lost 2 out of 3 to the White Sox.
Means you had a great September
None
still,
of those
but-
games mattered this weekend. Or if they got swept, it doesn't change even a tiny bit our analysis of this season. And in that reason, I do agree with you. 82 and 80, no different than 79 and 83.
Right.
It's the same season. It's exactly the same season. It's just a number.
There's
at this
nothing
point.
for the organization to hang their hats on.
And honestly, like
there's individual Snell, Soto.
Sure.
Great. Kim had a pretty good year.
Yep.
Fell off kind of in the last month and a half. There are individual things to hang your hats on, for sure. But the organization as a whole, to say we had a winning season.
I don't think you should be touting.
We were only 7 wins off last year's total.
Well, you're talking. People are going to sit here and talk about, hey, what lessons did we learn in the last month? Oh, that we can play together as a team, that we can win baseball games. The lessons that need to be learned from this season. Learn the lessons from April, May, June, July, August.
Yeah.
That's where you need to
83%
focus.
of the season was a complete and utter cluster.
Flush September. Every lesson that you need to learn moving forward, you can find in the first 5-6 months of the season, not September. September was a freaking anomaly in this season. It was an anomaly, right? Every lesson you need to know is there in April. Maybe it's even there in February and March. How you prepared? Did you prepare enough? Were you ready for this season? Those are where the lessons are learned this season.
As always, all guests on Ben and Woods appear on the Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet find new roads. We got a brand new Getaway to Vegas grand prize for Take on Woods for the month of October. You can be the first to qualify. Coming up next, talk about the payroll news with the Padres as well. It's all coming up on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Many of you out in the audience will be very happy to know the Foo Fighters are going to be playing. This is the Foo Fighters here, Ben. And they are going to be playing San Diego, California's very own Petco Park on August 7th of next year. So I believe the pre-sale is this week. You can go to their Twitter.
Do people really buy concert tickets that far in advance?
Oh, yeah, dude. I bought these U2 tickets I bought them in, like, March. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
March to October is a long time, but, I mean, you're talking next August. That's 11 months away almost from a concert.
You got to. You got to do it. They're not going to be, I mean, they're going to sell out.
I'm not saying if you don't act now, they're not going to sell out. I'm saying, shouldn't the venues wait until like 3 or 4 months before the show so people can have an idea? Or do they like people to be able to, hey, we're planning our travel or vacation next summer around the Foo Fighters concert at Petco Park?
Yep, you got to plan. You got to, it's not just for San Diegans, certainly, but Foo will be rocking Petco Park. I've seen them many times. I may pass on this one, but we'll see. What day of the week is that? Do we know? 8/7?
8/7 is, let's see.
I don't have one of those computers. There are people who actually, you can give them any date and they can tell you what day of the
Wednesday
week
night.
it is.
Oh, tough scene.
Wednesday night.
Paulie's going to be hurting on Thursday.
Wednesday night Woods.
No, I'm not going.
I want to start this discussion before we get to take on Woods with the acknowledgement that if you're listening, if you're hosting this show, unless you're one of maybe like 7 people who are in the Padres front office and deals with finances, don't really know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to payroll and debt reduction and debt ratios in Major League Baseball. If you're going to come in and give us a lecture on, the economics of it all.
Should we get an economist on?
I don't even think an economist necessarily, unless you know the exact books. Like, how much debt did they take on during the COVID pandemic? And, with baseball's rules, it's a very complex,
Can you Ben-splain it in a like I'm 12?
Sure. The Major League Baseball, they set up rules. They don't want their owners to get too over their skis financially.
Okay.
They don't want a team to, all of a sudden go into receivership because they can't pay their players and they get too far in debt.
Like their cable networks do.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So they have rules in place that say, hey, if you take on debt, you're borrowing, say, to, improve your ballpark, you borrow for whatever reason, your payroll has to, kind of match proportionally your debt. You can't just spend until you go into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So we want to make sure that our organizations are financially healthy. However, during the pandemic, as I mentioned, a lot of teams apparently had to, with no fans coming into the ballparks, they took some L's, money-wise, and went into a little bit of debt. Now, does that mean that the owners are crying poor? No. Their franchises are still worth a lot of money. They could sell them if they wanted to. But operating-wise, yes, they took some financial losses in 2020. It's left a number of teams, including the Padres, out of compliance with some MLB debt rules. And they have to, present a plan to Major League Baseball how they're going to get into compliance with these rules. Otherwise, they'll face some sort of consequences that we don't even really know what they are or, what we're talking about, as I said.
Well, so you hedge, right? You look at it and say, yeah, we'll take on this debt because we're building a really, really solid team and Peter said to us and on our show, this isn't about 1 year, guys. This is about a long, continued run, multiple playoff appearances. So they hedged their bets. They banked on playoff revenue that didn't come this season. It just didn't come. They're not going to the playoffs. I think with the Padres not making the playoffs, that really threw a monkey wrench into their plans. Now,
doesn't that also isn't that a point if you're on team? How is this sustainable though? If you're depending on playoff
if you're
revenue?
Depending on playoff revenue, but again, I don't think
Shouldn't that be more like a bonus?
They're not the only ones that did it. Now we talked to Eric Krupner early in the year when all the Bally stuff was going on, and he's like, guys, we didn't get caught with our pants down here. We knew that this was a possibility. It didn't hit him out of left field. Hopefully they prepared enough for that. But you throw that in with the lack of playoff revenue. I mean, guys, even for this radio station made a really nice chunk of change during the playoffs last year. It's revenue for everybody. And they didn't do it. They hedged their bets, and sometimes when you hedge your bets, you lose, and they lost. And now you got to pay the piper. I will say, man, I've been getting a lot of tweets with this sentiment, and I can't say that these people are terribly wrong, Ben. Using a high payroll to skyrocket the price of tickets, only to then cut the payroll the very next season feels bad, right? And season tickets are going up. Everybody knows that. People that are season ticket holders, they're getting banged 8 to 10 to 20 to 30%. And now you're going to be cutting payroll, which typically should mean an inferior product.
At least that's what we're hearing.
That's what we're
the
hearing.
Padres haven't announced, hey, here's our payroll for next season.
Right.
And we've been surprised before, so keep that in mind.
But again, I don't know that we were ever really I never had heard about this team before, the lack of not being in compliance with Major League Baseball. And now having to put a plan together to say, okay, here's how we're going to get there. It's not uncommon in business, certainly. But I can get behind that sentiment of, this isn't the best feel.
I think Padres fans have been burned before as well by owners who have come in, like Tom Werner, and just slash the payroll drastically. Fire sale.
Yeah, to put money in their own pocket.
And there's a difference between a fire sale to put money in your own pocket and reducing your payroll to what still would be, almost double what you had ever had it in your franchise history 5 or 6 years ago, to around $200 million is the figure that's been thrown around lately. You absolutely can win a World Series right now with a $200 million payroll. I think the Braves have a $206 million payroll this year. You do have to be smart, spend your money the right way, as you do at any payroll level. There's no guarantees, but the part that makes it hard for the Padres is if you look at what's committed for next season. And if you take even guys like Waka, Lugo, and Martinez out of the equation as free agents, they're gone. If you're keeping Juan Soto on arbitration, you're already at $180 million committed to next year.
So that would give you about $20 million.
$20 million is not a lot in this day and age to fill, half of a starting rotation.
I mean, Waka would cost you 16.
Right.
That's
it right. That's it right there.
That's what that goes to show you. It's going to have to be done on the cheap. It's not impossible, certainly.
Or you trade Juan Soto and you have $50 million to go out and fill some of your other holes, but you don't have a generational talent in Juan Soto.
And somebody else does. Yeah.
Now you're letting your best pitcher and your best offensive player walk.
Yeah, they're gone.
But we're still all in.
Doesn't mean that they would be the best pitcher and offensive player next year either.
Correct.
They were this year.
Juan Soto could be better.
I got a feeling Juan Soto's going to do pretty good.
I think he's going to be fine. Yeah,
especially in a contract.
But keep that in mind. You don't always want to be paying for what a guy did before. I'm more of Blake Snell than Juan Soto.
That's our favorite thing to do here.
They're replacing a Juan Soto isn't going to happen.
And I'll throw one
production.
And we need a contestant for Take on Wood. So if you want to call us now, 833-288-0973. Get in, chance to win a trip to Las Vegas. I'll throw this out there as a potential strategy. And you can say why it's a dumb idea, why it'll never happen. But you could trade Juan Soto, get back into debt compliance and under the luxury tax, save your pennies up, and go out the following offseason and sign Juan Soto as a free agent.
Yeah, you could.
Because it almost seems like a certainty that he's going to the free agent market anyway. Whether you keep him or not, if he doesn't want to re-sign an extension, and Scott Boras, they have not, or his agent, Scott Boras, they have not liked to sign extensions before hitting free agency. If you're going to end up in the same boat anyway, maybe it's better to have a little more in the coffers to have a better run at Juan Soto in 2024 at the end of the season when he does become a free agent.
I mean, you're going to get rental prices back for him. You're going to get, people are going to say, well, I mean, it's a rental. We don't know that we can re-sign him. But I do imagine a team that would trade for Juan Soto and give up top prospects, however many you think you can get. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough right now. It's just not. it's hard to say we're all in and then trade Juan Soto. For me, at least, that's how I feel.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't. All right, can you be all in every year as a franchise?
You need to be all in.
I mean,
but you need to be all in.
They went all in this year.
You need to be all in before Manny and Xander
all
turn
in
36.
is a poker metaphor, correct?
Are we going to go all in every 6 years?
Well, all in is a poker metaphor, right?
Right.
So what happens when you go all in and you bust?
You're out of money.
You're out of money.
Yeah.
And you got to build up again.
But they're not out of money.
I'm not saying they're out of money, but there are consequences to going all in and failing.
There's consequences too, though, for playing it very, very safe as well. It's really, really hard to win.
But the Dodgers did it this year.
It's not like they spent $69 million. They still
no, and
they
it's
have
not like the
Freddie
Padres are spending $69 million next year. Is it possible next year is a year that looks like the Dodgers this year, where you cut back like they did on payroll?
Yeah, obviously anything's possible. Anything's possible. They could go out and win 112 games and have Matt Batten as your third
I'm just
baseman.
saying financially, and then you ramp up again the following year. That's a normal business strategy in baseball.
But they've been ramping for 9 years almost. That's the thing is this ramp.
Multiple ramps.
Multiple ramps. It's like a skate park. There's ramps everywhere. No one's doing any tricks. It's just a bunch of ramps. That's all we've got here. And, the vaunted farm system and everything else, great. I'd love to see somebody from our farm come up and dominate once. Tatis, your outlier maybe, but, come on.
Campy looked good.
Campy looked good. I'd love to see some of these prospects hit and pitch and really be the next Spencer Strider or, Bobby Miller or anybody, right? Tom Cosgrove had a nice year. No one expected Tom Cosgrove. He was not a top prospect. He was traded for.
All I'm saying,
is
no franchise has a record payroll every single season, and it just goes up every single year. Every successful franchise has some ups and some downs and some ebbs and some flows. And the Padres will not be an exception to that.
We've been ebbing, though. There's the flows have been very...
And how's that treated everybody? Maybe you should be running your business more like the Braves and the Dodgers.
When you look at the contracts that were handed out, specifically to Manny and Xander, and then you can throw in some of the pitching contracts and everything else, but those two specifically, your window is before they turn 35. Right? Has to be.
Because now
every single year is critical until that point.
You're really locked in on guys that typically will age and
then one of them moves to first and one of them's your DH.
And one of them won't move to first. So, yeah, it's great. It's really it's dire. Missing the playoffs this year is as dire as it can be. Obviously, financially for the Padres, but in other ways as well. It makes you unsure of the direction your organization is going in. And there's some guys I'm really excited about in the minor leagues, no question. We have to see it though. You know what I mean? We have to see it at the big league level, and we really just haven't.
Let's push take on what's back an hour because we got into a deep discussion there and ran out of time. We do have Don't Do This coming up next. Maybe we'll bring in some non-baseball talk as well to the equation just for a couple of minutes. I can tell you that the Ryder Cup was as big of a Don't Do This as I have seen in a long time.
There was 100 Don't Do This from the Ryder Cup.
It really was. You could spend an hour talking about it. We won't, but... it was a bad weekend for Team USA. Get to all of that coming up with Ben and Woods after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan. efficacy. I think we're about to get a very selfish "Don't do this" from Mr. Stephen Woods. But go, you do you. You do you. No rules on "Don't do this."
I'm with you.
I understand why he did it. I understand the situation at hand. I understand that these things happen. But son of a gun, Patrick Mahomes. Last night, I mean, look, we all complained, didn't we, when the Jets got put into all these primetime games, right? Because we all expected Aaron Rodgers going to be at the helm. I got to give a lot of credit last night to both teams. One of the more exciting, interesting Sunday night games I've seen in a while. Zach Wilson found a little bit of something last night, and you can tell he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, got his team back in the game thanks to Patrick Mahomes being almost like horrific most of the game. But it comes down to the end of the game, Ben. 23-20, got about a minute 55 left in the game. Mahomes drops back. 23-20 again, the Chiefs are leading. He runs up, the breaks contain, runs up and just slides instead of walking into the end zone to score.
2 or 3 yards between
the first down was like at the 3.5-4 yard line.
Yep.
And he was there. He could have scored without
a hit.
Trouble.
Yeah.
But he slid inbounds to keep the clock running because the Jets had no timeouts left to assure a victory.
Yeah.
Even though a touchdown would have put him up 2 scores with less than 2 minutes to go, that also would have assured victory outside of score,
kickoff return,
kick,
onside
score
kick,
again, which is a 1 in 10,000 possibility.
Yeah, but he made sure to ice the game with the slide instead of scoring.
What was the spread in the game last night?
-9.
Chiefs by 9. So they were up by 3. Had he scored the touchdown and they made the extra point, they would have been up by
10.
10.
I had him at 8.
I had him at 9.
Doesn't matter. 8 or 9, same story.
Both winners.
Either way.
He just walks in.
But instead, Jets backers cashed their tickets at the end of the night.
That's exactly right.
On the underdog.
I mean, it's a headline on ESPN.
And
Patrick Mahomes' goal line slide shifts millions at sports books.
Millions and millions and millions.
And I'm sure the sports books did quite well, as I'd imagine the majority of the money was on the Chiefs 90%, in that game.
90% of it. 90% of it.
So they're having a good morning in Las Vegas.
Oh, as they usually do.
And you're having a bad morning thanks to Patrick Mahomes doing what was undoubtedly the smart and right thing.
I do not fault. It's part of the. It's the bad.
To have that
beat.
IQ in that moment in that game. That's
it was
incredible.
Kind of unnecessary.
It's also like pretty unselfish. Rushing for a touchdown is cool.
Patrick Mahomes fantasy football owners weren't that happy about it. A rushing touchdown could have
they don't care.
Swung games.
They don't care about your gambling. They don't care about your fantasy team, nor should they. He did the right thing. As much as
I don't have to like it though.
We do not have to like it, and we can feature it on Don't Do This.
I was so excited for the Ryder Cup this weekend and so disappointed in what turned into just an absolute shellacking by Team Europe over the U.S. I can give so many Don't Do This is like Brooks Koepka and Scotty Scheffler losing 9 and 7 in alternate shot on Saturday, the worst ever defeat in Ryder Cup history on either side. But the weirdest thing that happened was the controversy involving Patrick Cantlay, no hat, Rory McIlroy, near brawl in the parking lot with a caddy, Joe LaCava, for the United States. We're still trying to piece together exactly what happened, but one of the few bright spots for the U.S. was Patrick Cantlay winning his match, on Saturday without the hat on, and the controversy, why is he not wearing a hat?
So there was a report that came out that was pretty gnarly when you read it. It says Patrick Cantlay has fractured the locker room. He refuses to wear a hat because he's not getting paid, and he wants to get paid for the Ryder Cup. They do not get paid for the Ryder Cup. It's like an honor to be there. It's like the Olympics, right?
They get
money for their charity.
A healthy, sizable donation to their foundations and stuff. But it's not
cash in his pocket.
It's not like the Masters or anything.
Well, so this is a wrinkle that I didn't realize, and now it makes a lot of sense. So they asked him about the hat, and he goes, "I didn't wear it because it didn't fit. I can certainly relate. I don't really. I try not to wear hats much anymore because none of them look good on me. I used to be a hat guy. They don't really look good on me anymore, so I don't wear them. You know what else? Do you see everybody else taking their hats off after that 3 days out there? The big dark line. My man Patrick Cantlay is getting married today. he was getting married today, and I'm like, this SOB really? Okay, I get it. You don't want to have
giant hat
the
tan.
giant hat tan on your wedding day.
That's smart.
He's marrying a beautiful.
It actually kind of
beautiful
rallied Team USA together. Like Justin Thomas and others took their hats off because the European fans were making fun of Cantley and waving their hats around. So when Cantley made the big putt, then Joe LaCava, they took their hats off and waved it. But Rory said, hey, I can see you. You're in my line. I'm trying to putt. Stop that. And they almost
LaCava told him to go F himself.
And they almost went to blows in the parking lot. They were like held back. Bones, Phil's old caddy was there trying to keep, some peace. But what really is crazy then, Steve Sands of the Golf Channel reported later that night that, hey, LaCava reached out to Rory, said, we love you guys, kind of to make amends. But then Rory was asked yesterday, did that happen? He goes, no. So now we're not even sure if they've even settled things. We do know that Europe won 16.5 to 11.5. U.S. made a bit of a charge at the end. They would have had to have won the last 4 matches just to tie it and keep the cup. It was never going to happen.
It was. And I watched most of it on Saturday, and it was awful.
Yeah,
it was just
terrible.
awful. They got shellacked. They got bodied. And now, I mean, it does brew up a nice little drama for Bethpage Black, which is going to be in a couple years from now. I can't wait. We should go. We say that all the time. That would be a freaking blast to go out to that. But all right, let's do our doo-doo. This is a very sweet one.
DD Mega Doo-Doo.
I know people have a little bit of Adam Wainwright lash. I get it. Baseball's best fans and all of that. But Adam Wainwright did retire, and he is done. He did get a pinch hit appearance, took a massive rip at about a 93-mile-an-hour fastball at his eyes for the first pitch, ended up grounding out in his plate appearance. It was a really cool moment. Then he strapped on his guitar after the game. They blacked out all the lights at New Bush, and it looked amazing, and he played. I wish I had some audio of that.
Bush.
But then they presented him with something very special and different. I had not seen this yet, Ben, in yesterday's retirement ceremony.
His wife walking out onto the field with a basket.
There's she's holding a basket.
And he pulls out a puppy.
Little puppy. Sweet little puppy.
Wearing a Cardinals jersey.
Okay, I'm glad it's his wife that was giving it to him. And not like
somebody else.
Someone random.
Well, so
you should on behalf of the team.
So the backstory is this guy, by the way, the guy that disappears for 6 months out of the year says, we'll get a puppy when I'm retired. And his kids are like, Dad, his older kids. They're like, we just want a dog. He's like, well, I told you, we'll get one. Get one when I'm retired. So they brought him one out in a basket. It was
all right, just keep in mind, though, giving someone a pet as a gift that they don't want is not good.
Not cool.
It leads to neglected animals, and you'd never want to do that. But this is something that he's kind of wanted for a long time, and seems like it was a good idea.
It was so cute.
So he had a good last weekend. Miggy Cabrera had his final weekend. If Joey Votto is retiring, he got ejected in his last game. That would be a weird way to go. But
that sucked too.
He may still come back next season.
I don't know. I really don't.
I'm not sure either. Zach Greinke's also kind of deciding whether to come back.
Brandon Crawford's done.
You hear Rich Hill wants to come back next year. Got the win yesterday.
I did.
But he said, I think I'm just going to wait until the middle of summer to sign.
Yeah.
Save my arm
Keep
and then
myself
join
in
a
shape.
team next year.
Yeah.
And that's Don't and Do This for a Monday.
That was Don't Do This with Ben and Woods on 97.3 The Fan.
All right, let's get back to some of our Padres talk. Our phone lines are open, 833-288-0973. You hinted at it earlier, but Xander Bogaerts comments about next season and where he might play. Position-wise, he's open to moving. He's not open to moving. It's
both, actually.
It's a bit of a complex complex set of rules for Xander Bogaerts next season.
I need to clarify. So, we'll do that next.
We'll talk about that coming up on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Woods mentioned earlier how the Padres, a few times this season, players kind of stuck their foot in their mouth. Xander Bogaerts, he did it a couple of times as well.
But it's going to happen. Course of a long season, people say stuff, and you're like, whoa.
When asked about a potential position change, though, he almost got there. He almost got to the right answer, but came up just a little bit short. We'll get into that coming up. We've got Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue coming up at 8:35 this morning. Look at the playoff matchups and more. The MLB postseason gets underway tomorrow. All guests on Ben and Woods appear on our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. What exactly did Xander Bogaerts say? We'll get to that and your calls right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan.
From the Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto family, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change, your 15-minute instant drive-thru oil change. Got a hit-and-run crash in the North County. Now, this is on the old Highway 395 off-ramp. Stop on 15, it's over the right shoulder. Stop by any of the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change centers. You don't have to get out of your car. It usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for discounts and locations nearest you. Valvoline Oil Change centers are open 7 days a week. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
So there was a thought around some quarters at Petco Park and the fan base that this year's Padres could have put a better lineup on the field defensively and maybe even more well-rounded offensively had Ha-Sung Kim been the everyday shortstop and Xander Bogaerts maybe moved over to first base where the Padres were deficient offensively for the better part of the season. However, as we talked about in the offseason, they signed Xander and there was clearly some sort of, promise made that he's going to be the shortstop moving in. At some point, though, that may change. Now, we didn't know if it would be in 5 years or 3 years or maybe 1 year. And the question was asked to Xander in the Union Tribune in their notes column yesterday. What is your thoughts on a potential position change if they do need you to move off of shortstop? And he said, well, I'll think about it. I'm not, I've got to be a shortstop, Bogaerts said. I was that guy when I came up, but I'm very realistic. And I'm not getting younger, I know, but I haven't given any thought of this. Might be too soon yet. Obviously, as a player, you feel like you can do it for a long time, but I am realistic. All right, well, that's promising. He's not going to, say it's not possible. I can't ever move off shortstop. I'm there, and that's where I'm going to play forever.
Like Jeter did.
Yeah, exactly.
Good players, good leaders, Hall of Fame players say stuff like this. They do. If Jeter, when they signed A-Rod, should have moved to second or third. He absolutely should have. Alex Rodriguez should have been the shortstop of that team. He didn't. And then continue with the rest. So
Xander does think, though, that if he is asked to move, that the place he needs to move is second base. When thought like the first base might be where he's going to be asked to move to, he says, I don't want that. I see it this way. Center field, shortstop, second base. That's the triangle. You start going to the corners, you're closer to the bench. I don't want to be too quick going to first.
Which is fine. Like I said, I saw it yesterday after just such a disappointing season, and I thought to myself, man, it would be refreshing. And I should have clarified, too, because there are guys on this team that have said, whatever you need me to do, I will do. Nick Martinez is one of those guys. Fernando Tatis Jr., one of those guys, moved out to right field, going to win a gold glove doing it. Will probably end up moving to center field, all right, at some point. He's been open to it. He's been amenable to it. I think it was the timing of it for me that really kind of bugged me and irked me a little bit. I just want to hear, hey, we're super embarrassed. This was a crap season. I'll do whatever they need me to do. And really, it's not only that I want them to say that, Ben. I want them to feel that, right? That's what I want. It's not lip service. I want 26 guys that say, whatever you need, you got it. Like, especially a guy like, now I can understand if he's up for, Juan Soto moved positions for the love of God. He did it, and he's still playing for, a big contract, his first massive contract. it would almost make a little sense to me. Xander just got his bag. Like, he got the last bag he's ever going to get. He's like the prime guy that should be like, where do you need me? You want me to play first? You want me to DH? You want me to play third? Move Manny back to short? Move Manny to first? I don't care. Whatever you need me to do, I'm willing to. That's my whole point. If you have 26 guys that think like that, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Well, and Xander's not wrong. There have been plenty of players in the past who have been, put out to pasture by essentially, all right, now we're going to move you over to first base, and now you're going to be a DH, and eventually you're a part-time player, and you're done. No one's suggesting that they're trying to usher Xander Bogaerts into
the door.
retirement.
It's year one. That's the thing. It's like, bro, it's year one. But again, it's just
he could play first base next year, and they may still need him at shortstop for 4 years after that.
Correct.
But if a particular team's best roster construction involves Xander Bogaerts moving to first base or designated
base or
hitter,
DH, yeah,
then you have to absolutely consider that for the good of the team on any good season. I agree with you there.
It speaks to the overall pervasive attitude of, me before we and all of that, and you've seen too much of it, you've heard too much of it, and that's I think it would surprise me coming from him the most because of where he came up. I'm sorry, man, but like if he said that at Fenway Park after a really disappointing season, which they had as well, if he said that yesterday at Fenway Park, it would have been front page. Dan Shaughnessy would have killed him in the media, killed him, and they're not doing that here. And I'm not trying to crucify him again. I love Xander. I think he's a great
anyone
player.
is anti-Xander Bogaerts.
Nobody is. For me. The only thing I want to hear, and really, again, it's more than lip service. It's more than eyewash. I want you to feel that. I want you to feel that, hey, whatever they need me to do, wherever they need me to hit, or wherever they need me to play, all I want to do is win a ring.
Now, if behind closed doors you're meeting with your coaches and you want to say, I really do think I'm best off here, and here's why, and let me lay out my cases. Now, again, if whatever you need, Coach, but here's why I think I should be better at this position. Sure.
We have so many shortstops, and we have shortstops coming up. Jackson Merrill is now, they're grooming him to be an outfielder. I mean, there's so many guys coming through. AJ does have he has an affinity for shortstops. There's plenty of guys that can play short. I think he did a fine job this year. I think he actually did a better job than I expected him to do at short. He had some late errors, but I think that comes with just being exhausted. Again, it's not the play. It's just the mentality of like, no, this is what's best for me. You got your money. You got your bag. Well, help us win a World Series.
What you're saying essentially is I'm more important than my teammate.
Correct.
Does Ha-Seong Kim not have the right to go,
right,
hey,
I'm a better shortstop.
I'm the best defensive player maybe in the league. Shouldn't I be at shortstop? Better for my career if I'm out at shortstop.
Yeah, he hasn't gotten 280 yet.
Why isn't that okay? Xander, Ha-Seong Kim could legitimately be very resentful of Xander Bogaerts for that attitude. Like, dude, I'm working hard. I'm playing great defense. We'd be better off if I was at shortstop. Now, I don't see Ha-Seong Kim as the kind of person who is going to say that.
Well, again,
out loud.
I don't.
Even behind closed doors.
I don't want Xander Bogaerts playing first in the second year of his contract. I don't. That's not my point. My point is I want you to want to if they need you. That's it. Remember the movie The Breakup? Why would I want to do dishes? I want you to want to help. I want you to want to do dishes. Why would I want to do dishes? I understand it. Like it doesn't. Xander Bogaerts at first base is weird. That's a weird thing, and it would be like, what are we doing? Why did we sign him?
Year two, really.
Year two, he's playing first,
here.
right? I don't even want it. I want him to want to do it if we need him to do it, and to flat out say, nope, I don't want to do that. That's a tough look for me. I'm sorry. That is that boomer that lives inside me. That is a tough look for me, especially when you didn't make the playoffs, when you guys didn't have a good season.
Going to get out to the phones here, 833-288-0973. I want that attitude to extend all the way to the top, to the general manager's office. Like, I need to work and do everything I can to make this team well, but if what we need is for me to back off a little bit and let my manager do his job, then that's what's good for the team this year. That's what I need to do. You need to have that attitude throughout your organization. Whatever it takes, whatever you need me to do to win, egos aside, let's do it and let's get it done. All right, let's go out to Mike in Temecula. Mike, good morning. Happy Monday to you on 97.3 The Fan.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Isn't there just all kinds of things to talk about?
Yes, sir.
Hey, over the weekend, I went ahead and bought myself a bottle of Camus. And then
It's pronounced Camus.
Okay. Hey, I hear you guys talking about, the Juan Soto and everything's about money. But my point I just want to bring up, and we need solid role players. We're done with the superstars. We need someone that can fill the positions on a regular day basis and not, pay the $100 million for so-and-so. And the reason why I bring this up is Turner just played his last game as a Boston Red Sox.
Yep.
He would be, and I'm not saying, he might not even want to play for the Padres, but he would be a solid role player. And I know he knows that he's a role player now. He's not a superstar anymore. And then C.J. Cron, they traded him away for somebody. I think he's another role player, but I just think we're done spending the $100 million. And on Xander, he should be playing shortstop because he's a professional.
Sure.
Yes, his first year, it's just, what do you guys think?
Yeah, Justin Turner actually had a pretty decent year for Boston on a last place team. Is he a free agent? I don't know if he is. I'm not sure.
I think he only signed a
one-year deal.
Yeah, but even if that's true, wasn't that true of Matt Carpenter last year?
Yep.
A veteran coming in. What is going to make Justin Turner then come to the Padres and not start pod racing once he gets here?
Justin Turner still made, by the way, as a role player, he made $8.3 million.
And C.J. Cron is going to make more than that given his track record, I would think.
Yeah,
even with the injuries he's gone through.
This is where it's great to have 4 or 5 guys ready to break through at the big league level that cost you the league minimum for 4 years, right? That's what they desperately need. That reverts back to, well, okay, maybe you can trade Juan Soto for those guys. I don't want that to happen, but, based on everything coming together and reading about debt reduction and you're not going to extend him, I think it would be tough to swallow him playing out the season next year. You're almost guaranteed he's going to have a good season, right, in a walk year. And letting him walk at the end of the season, trading him at the deadline, that would mean we're giving up on the season when you trade Juan Soto. They're really in a pickle. It's a really, really big pickle. They've painted themselves into a bit of a corner, and now you got to figure out a way out of it. The GM's going, whoever it may be, if it's A.J. Preller, he's going to have to do some serious GMing this offseason if it's him. If today he gets the stay of execution and says, okay, let's get back to work, he's going to have to make some miracles.
Well, as I said last week, that's the job.
That is the job.
Yeah, you did it last year. You found Waka and Lugo. Now you got to find more. And you've got to do it, and you've got to replace a lot. Let's go to Steve next up here on Ben and Steven Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station. Good morning, Steve.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Hey, buddy.
Boy, I tell you what, for as frustrating as the season was, I really, really, really did appreciate how they finished and effort and this team. And like you said, Woodsy, Xander saying, hey, whatever you want, coach.
That's what I need.
The kind of stuff.
That's what you need.
That's the kind of stuff you're looking for as opposed to the only saltiness I have is a long-haired closer not going out for one inning.
Yeah, that ship is definitely sailed right now. Josh Hader will sail off into the sunset, probably no longer a Padre, will get a really, really nice payday. It will be interesting to see whatever team signs him, how they use him. So if you're Josh Hader and you get your big fat contract, no more arbitration, you're unrestricted, you can sign 5 years, $120 million, whatever it may be. Now, do you go in that day and say, well, I'm financially secure for the rest of my days. Use me at will, right? I don't know.
What are the limits on whatever you need, coach? Are there limits on whatever you need, coach?
That's a good question.
Because we all feel like asking Josh Hader to give 4 outs is not untoward. It's not, that's not a crazy thing.
The fact, Ben,
but if you asked him to get 9 outs,
yes,
all of a sudden you go, oh, come on, man, I can't do that. And then we'd all go, all right, Josh Hader has a point. Why
Sure.
would you
Like,
ask him to get 9 outs?
Xander Bogaerts could say, like, I've never played first.
Right.
Like, Hader, you're asking him for an extra inning.
If they said,
Xander,
an extra out,
we need you to learn how to catch next season. You're going to be our catcher going forward. I could go ahead and
Hey, we're going to
make the
stretch you
argument
out. You're going to be a starter for
Xander
us.
Bogaerts would go, I don't want to catch. I've never caught before.
Yeah,
That's not for me.
Let's not take it into the realm of absurd,
absurd, yeah,
right? Because that's exactly what it is. But I do think there's something with the financial security that certain guys have. Yeah, I think there should be a little bit more of, I'm not worried about my numbers. I'm worried about wins. That's the only thing, like, that's all I care about. And if I can help the team defensively, offensively, on the base paths, getting a guy off his feet, whatever, sure, then I'm down. But once you kind of get your bag, it's not that all the shackles are off and yeah, Josh Hader's now a starter. We're going to work on that. No, it's not. You still have to use him smartly. The fact though with Josh Hader, and I will say this, the fact that they had to sit down before the playoffs and formulate a plan when to use Josh Hader, that sucks. That sucks. Here's the plan. You're the best pitcher on our team. We're going to use you when we need huge outs. Cool? Cool. That's the plan. That should be the plan. Right?
In the playoffs?
All bets are off. Like, people's arms are dangling. Their hamstrings are about to pop. Their calves are sore. Their feet hurt. You know, they can't throw. They got to get Toradol shots just to get on the field. 6 hours in a trainer's room to get ready for playoffs. I think the playoffs are a different breed. The fact that Niebla and Melvin had to sit down last year, and the quote was, gingerly approach Josh Hader about usage in the playoffs, that sucks.
Just picture them with, like, their hat in their hands. Hey, Josh.
It's terrified. Can we meet with you real quick?
Any chance you might potentially, possibly, maybe...
That's the thing.
Maybe pitch in the 8th inning.
That's the thing that maybe irks me just a little bit, and I understand. I don't know what it's like to be facing. Hey man, as long as I stay healthy, I'm going to make $100 million. I do understand all that, but when the playoffs come, they're so rare now, as we know. They're so rare. They're not. You can't bank on them. You can't bet on it. Like, you have to take that opportunity when you can, in my opinion, because at the end of his career, he's going to have the money for sure. Will he get the ring? You know, and that's what you play for, I think. I thought. That's how I thought.
We still have 2 hours coming up. Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue going to be with us at 8:35. Sam Levitt at 9:35. We pushed Take on Woods back, so you actually get an opportunity here in about 10 minutes or so to qualify for our new trip to Las Vegas. So get ready to call in and take on Woods in our musical trivia contest as well. I just want to throw out the last couple of absurd numbers from this Padres season. Was it ironic at all? I mean, even Bob Melvin called it ironic that the last game of this season that was defined by one-run losses, extra inning losses, and lack of winning streaks ends with a 2-1 11-inning win and a 5-game winning streak.
With Rich Hill on the bump.
With Rich Hill on the mound. Rich Hill, who hadn't won since the trade deadline. G-Man Choi, who hadn't got a hit. Got his first 2, his only 2 with the Padres this weekend as well. And for the team that could not win 4 in a row, we talked about it all season long. For the first 146 games, they couldn't put together a 4-game winning streak. In the last 16, they had 3 of them. 3 4-game winning streaks in the last 16 games of the season for the team that couldn't do it once in the first 146 games of the year.
Makes it worse. Makes it worse.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, we'll come back with some Take on Woods. Got a lot more to get to with Ben and Woods on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. a World Series.
I want the World Series champs. You wear that stuff all the time. Get hats with big patches on the side that I don't even like, but I don't care. I'll wear it because it says World Series champs.
Our overarching goal is one thing, and that's to win a world championship and bring a parade and the title to San Diego.
I mean, I can remember the last time San Diego had a team like this and had excitement like this around baseball.
The overachiever on the team, I'll go first on this one. I think this young man is going to have a monster season, and his name's Jake Cronenworth. Good
Based
call.
on what we finished last year and the guys we brought in, it was pretty easy as far as what we expect and what our goals are.
Meanwhile, the Marlins have closed out the Pirates at PNC Park and have therefore closed out the Padres. Chances, slim as they were, at a postseason berth here in 2023.
Black Monday, potentially, here in San Diego and other markets as well. Good morning, guys. Ben and Woods, we're halfway home on a Monday. The post-mortem of the 2023 San Diego Padres season has arrived, and now we get to look forward to the offseason and all that it entails, and it should be an interesting one. I'm Woodsy. That's Paul Reindl, our executive producer, imaging director as well. Ben Higgins, your friendly neighborhood sports anchor, sits with us this morning, and it has been. It's over, that's nice that it's over. 82-80 was the finish. I do hear and see a lot of people saying, at least they finished strong, and fine. I mean, that's absolutely okay for you to feel that. It actually made me even more mad. The tough part of this year for me was watching, the potential in those games that boosted that. I don't want to say it. Done differential. All boosted it. When they go and throw up 13 runs, 12 runs, you're like, now we're talking. This is the corner being turned. Look at these guys. Who beats these guys? When they were hot, there was nothing like it. I mean, 10-run wins, 11-run wins, good pitching, good defense, the whole thing. And then when it was bad, it was putrid. Just lack of situational hitting, bad base running, everything that could go wrong. And this was a weekly thing. This was not like, they put together good stretches. Take September out. There were no good stretches. None for this team all season long. The best stretch they ever put together was 3 straight wins. And when you think back on it, it's an excruciating way to play. It's an excruciating way to be a fan. It's really an excruciating team to cover when they can't get it together, and you just can't figure out why.
Well, you've heard what we've had to say. We've heard a little bit of what you have had to say out there. But what about the chairman of the Padres, Peter Seidler? Within the last few moments, Padres have released an official statement from Padres owner Peter Seidler. It reads, "We entered 2023 with expectations that we would build on last year's NLCS appearance and contend for a World Series championship. We fell short of that goal. Padres organization will learn from this season and emerge in 2024 with the pieces in place to compete for San Diego's first World Series title. Our current leadership team continues to have my full support, and I have asked them to perform a thorough assessment of our organization beginning today. We will make the changes necessary to play championship caliber baseball for our extraordinary fans in 2024. Peter Seidler, Padres chairman."
I have no earthly idea what that means.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I don't have the slightest clue what that means.
I mean, you can parse it a little bit.
If I parse it, Ben, everyone's staying. I've asked them to read it again.
He says,
read the part. You know the part.
Our current leadership team continues to have my full support. Okay. Who is the leadership team?
It's Eric Grupner. It's AJ Preller.
Yes.
It's
Is
Bob
it
Melvin.
Bob Melvin?
Yeah.
I would say so. I mean, that would be my definition of the Padres leadership team. Others may say it's just Eric Grupner and AJ Preller, though. So I think it still leaves
there's a little
some wiggle room,
shades of gray,
yeah,
if you will.
I have asked them to perform a thorough assessment of our organization beginning today.
Okay, if you stop there, we're fine. The next sentence: we will make the changes necessary
Kind of a lot of contradicting.
It really, we will make the changes necessary to play championship caliber baseball for our extraordinary fans in 2024. Now, if you parse it out and think the leadership group is Eric and AJ, that means Bob's gone today. And Bob will be signed by the Giants.
But that would be a change.
That would be a change.
If they're making changes.
He is talking about changes.
Or are we talking more about organizational, philosophical changes behind the scenes?
Relationship building.
Strategic changes.
Bob and AJ do a beach cleanup together today. That could be on the table.
It's never a bad thing to do a beach cleanup.
It's never a bad thing. Do some team building. Maybe they can get a suite for the Padres night, for a Padres game. Bob actually won't be managing. Him and AJ are hanging out in the Odyssey suite tonight.
Get some of that catered food up there.
Yes. Yes.
Have some tri-tip nachos and work it all out.
So it's a brilliant statement, and that no one still, it remains in the dark.
Does anyone doubt Peter Seidler really wants to win?
No, I don't.
I think that is abundantly clear. I also think it's pretty clear that he's willing to put a good deal of resources toward that goal.
I agree.
Now, are they absolutely unlimited, like Steve Cohen style? Maybe
No.
not.
Especially
in a market like San Diego. But he's been stretching more than anyone thought was possible to try to make winning happen. Does Peter Seidler, and, this is illness notwithstanding, I absolutely wish him the best and a speedy recovery. Does Peter Seidler have what it takes as an owner to make the difficult decisions to make winning happen?
I guess we will see.
Financially, he does. I've seen that.
I guess we'll see. I mean, that's the only answer. It's not a good answer. It's not a sexy answer, but today is that day. If you run it back for year 3 with Bob and year 10 for AJ, does anything change next season?
He just said they will make changes necessary to play championship caliber baseball.
That means you're going to cut Matt Carpenter.
It's a tough sell. It's a tough sell to sell changes without making personnel changes. Those are harder to see.
They're going to change personnel, but I think the personnel will
management
be wearing.
Personnel, though.
I think the changes will be where some of the players wearing the uniform, right? So I mean, you can. Again, shades of gray. You can say, "Oh no, we did make changes. We traded Juan Soto."
The part that's given me the biggest pause, though. Even the Bob Melvin haters out there, and I've seen you on my social media feeds. How do you sell the next manager of the Padres if it's not Bob Melvin?
How do you sell him, or how do you sell him to the fans?
How do you sell him to the fan base and to the players?
Frankly, not to be a jerk, what choice do we have? We don't. They fill the ladle and they say open up, and that's it. It doesn't. What choice do we have? If it's Ryan Flaherty, if it's Gabe Kapler, if it's Buck Showalter, if it's Joe Madden, if it's Benji Gill, if it's Henry, what choice?
What choice do you have is not the greatest sell job
it's
to a fan base.
But I'm sorry to be so cut and dry about it, but that's absolutely the fact. I've said it before. I think it's malpractice to let Bob Melvin go. What am I going to do? Stop watching? Stop covering the team?
I'm not saying that, but anyone with a reasonable understanding of baseball, if you get rid of Bob Melvin,
you're starting fresh.
Inexperienced first-year manager.
What if you hire an experienced manager? A Joe Madden.
Mike
Schilt. Holy Schilt.
I think at the very best, you can say the Padres are making a lateral move.
Yes.
To try to shake something up. But you're not going to be able to argue, we are going to bring in a dynamic new manager who's going to do a better job than Bob Melvin did.
It begs the question, is there anybody that would blow your hair back and say, all right, I mean, because you know how we feel about Bob. It's on record. Is there anybody that they could bring in that would, like how remember when they brought in Bob Melvin and we were like, holy crap, they actually did it. Is there anybody that blows your hair back out there? And I had, a guy tweeted me this weekend an interesting name, and if I can get it up quickly, I will. That's what she said. There are some interesting names. Who, though, do they bring in, though? And are they going to give this? Is this person going to get the autonomy that Bob Melvin never got. Are they? If it's Ryan Flaherty, right? That's the thing. Is like that's when you're beating your head against the wall, going, "What's going to change? What's going to change?"
If they're going to make a move at manager, it has to be somebody from not within the organization. Mike Schilt is another Bob Melvin. Ryan Flaherty is another Jace Tingler,
right?
Another Andy Green. You're going to have to go.
Just
and I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah,
but. Was it Dennis's article talking about, like, what does that say to the baseball community and the community of managers and available managers out there that this team let Bob Melvin go?
Right.
It's
a tough sell job. It's a tough sell job for
sure. You could sell it to a guy that's going to make his managerial debut and not have any authority. That's about it.
I mean, if it's another quote unquote puppet type manager, are any Padre fans excited about that?
Hey, we've had manager GMs here in San Diego before. Trader Jack did it.
That's true.
Maybe AJ Preller should just manage the team himself next season. Then there's no question who's responsible when it comes down to it. I don't think that's going to happen. But all I'm saying is that getting rid of Bob Melvin is an almost impossible sell, as this is how we're making the franchise better.
There's a portion of the fan base that would be elated, and to them I say, congrats. Now you got another guy, another philosophy. Okay, fine. And like I said, you do have to just wear it. I mean, we'll absolutely have to wear it, whoever it is, and get to know them and follow how they manage.
And they may end up being immensely successful.
Absolutely.
This is baseball talking about.
Yep.
Absolutely, it's possible that Bob could go, a new manager comes in, and for whatever reason, Padres click next season, and they win Manager of the Year, and it's fantastic. That's within the realm of possibility. But I'm telling you, for the press conference, to begin his tenure, he's facing an uphill climb to win over hearts and minds.
This guy did some good research. His handle is Go Pops. And he says, Rodney Linares should be our upgrade if and when Baumel leaves. Analytics inclined from winning organizations. Bilingual, Dominican-American. Already managed Soto and Machado in the WBC. Managed 5 seasons in the minors, helping to develop Astro stars. He's been the Tampa Bay Rays third base coach since 2019. That being said, great. Sounds like a really great prospect, a really great managerial prospect. Will he be able to manage, or a new guy in his first go-around? Some of the guys will know him. Some of them won't, which is probably pretty standard when you hire a new manager. Will he come in and AJ and staff say, okay, man, it's all yours, sink or swim?
Can he work with AJ Preller?
Right. That's kind of the thing. That's really the most constant theme over the last 9 years.
Can anybody work with AJ Preller?
Right. Can any of these managers do that? So that's what they have to figure out.
We've seen it now. We have the sample size. We've seen the
This will be 6. This will be number 6.
Right.
In 9 years.
Inexperienced rookie managers. We've seen the
season
manager of the year veteran type guy come in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the interesting part. So the statement's out. It means that there's some wheels in motion. I think our pal Ryan Cohen summed it up well on Twitter. If you read between the lines, it's pretty obvious everyone will be back, or everyone will be fired, or some will be fired and some will be back. I think Ryan absolutely nailed that.
So basically where we were 20 minutes ago.
Correct.
Before this segment started and before that statement by Peter Seidler was released. Yeah. All right, well, we'll wait and see. Time will reveal all answers. We just have to be patient and let it unfold. We just pushed Take on Woods again. I'm sorry. I did it again.
Let's bang it.
We'll just bang it for today. We'll get back to it tomorrow. We'll start the month tomorrow.
Not in the mood.
I will give him a little promotion and say when we do get back to Take on Woods, you'll be playing for a 2-night stay at the Westgate Las Vegas and tickets to Frankie Valli, the legend of the Four Seasons, live in concert at the International Theater at the Westgate. That's our prize this month, a must-see for any fan of classic rock and roll. Tickets and VIP packages are available at Ticketmaster.com. And, of course, the Westgate has just renovated $70 million in room renovations, so we'll get to that tomorrow. But we got breaking Padres news happening. We're covering it here on the flagship station. You wouldn't want to be anywhere else. We'll be back after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
Do you crown an MVP in an 82 and 80 season for the San Diego Padres? That's what we were kind of talking about in here. And there's a lot of discussion in the chat, as there always is. You can follow us on YouTube and watch us. I mean, I look like Hammered S right now. I'm looking in the chat. I'm like, good Lord, dude. Put through the ringer. Do you get to crown an MVP? And who would yours be, Ben, if you're looking at an 82 and 80 season where all expectations were not met, and you'll be watching the playoffs from Cancun?
Well, clearly, if you go by wins and losses, it's Jurickson Profar, since they went 16-5 since he arrived.
He got here.
But I don't think you can make a strong argument for anyone other than Juan Soto.
Yeah. The chat is saying MVP was Snell. Phenomenal. Every 5 days, though. Every 5 days. 162 for Soto.
Yeah, that's not a Snell thing.
That's not a Snell thing.
I don't
That's
ever
how
see
baseball goes.
how pitchers are MVPs. And I know it's happened.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with it.
People saying, a lot of people saying Snell or Soto. I think you're pretty good in either case. There was a time Ha-Seong Kim was just white hot, hottest player in baseball, doing it with the glove as well. Yeah, he absolutely should have won several Players of the Months for the San Diego Padres.
A lot has been written about Blake Snell's start. I think he was 0-5 with a 5.5 ERA, and how since that, last 23 starts, historically good. Jason Stark compared it to the 68 Bob Gibson season. That's like the closest comparison to what Blake Snell did, after his first, month and a half of the season. What hasn't been written as much is how good Juan Soto was after his slow start. Remember, he was batting under 200 at one point. I mean, he was struggling early in the season, really struggling. To get to the numbers he got to,
staggering.
He had an unbelievable last, 4 to 5 months of the year. That would have been MVP-type production, given the entire 6 months of a season.
It's pretty great, too, because there's the thoughts on Juan Soto. Oh, he's garbage time player. And our pal Satan's Blowfish very aptly threw this up in the chat. You can check his stats for free. He's got a 130 WRC plus, weighted runs created plus, in high leverage situations. That's 30% better than everyone in baseball. In medium leverage situations, a 155 WRC plus. His season, in a down average season for Juan Soto, was staggering. Barry Bonds-esque. Again, the fact that it's the season's over, 82 and 80 finish, and you're still having to defend a player like this is absurd. It's absurdity.
He played in all 162 games, so there's big value to that as well. He tied Jack Clark's franchise record yesterday with 132 walks in a season, although
I'm blown away Jack Clark walked that much.
I was surprised as well. I will say, though, that one of the things that really unlocked Juan Soto later in the season was actually walking less and swinging a little bit more.
Yep.
Remember early in the season when we kind of got frustrated, like, oh, another walk for Juan Soto. And
I never did.
Well,
I never
understood that.
I never
people did, but I think when they did, the point was kind of what we saw in the second half of the season.
You can do damage.
The best version of Juan Soto still walks a ton, but he can do more damage when he's swinging more, and he showed us exactly that he can do tons of damage while still walking a bunch.
I wish I could find this tweet from Danny Vietti. Tweeted it out. I think it was a couple weeks ago. So the numbers have even improved since. Dude went back and did like an analysis on pitches that he swung outside of the zone. The numbers are staggering, Ben. He swung at like maybe 60 to 100 pitches out of the zone all season long. It basically is the old, if he says it's a ball, right? The eye is so keen and so good. I mean, he got pitched around a ton, obviously, with a lot of walks. But the eye is staggering. And then when he gets locked in at the plate and he's going oppo, 30-plus bombs, driving in runs as well, high leverage situations, he's a clutch hitter. What are we, 24 years old? Oh, you don't like how he plays defense? Okay. All right. I mean, fine. I don't understand it. I really don't understand why you're still having to sell a season like he just had. It doesn't make it. He's clearly your MVP. Clearly,
the person who wasn't the MVP but did deserve some mention, had a tough September, did have a career high tying 4 hits on Saturday, I believe, is Ha-Seong Kim. He was the MVP for a while. Remember when Ha-Seong Kim seemed to be the clear MVP of the Padres?
Yeah.
Kind of at the middle point of the season. He was tied with Acuna, I think, for a while in like highest F WAR in all of baseball, wasn't it? Or was it B WAR? I always forget which one's which, but he was up there among the league leaders. Defensively, obviously fantastic. Went through a slump, in September, whether there was an injury or just a little fatigue at the end of the season or just a slump, because baseball players go through slumps. Brought some of those numbers down to earth a little bit, but he had a phenomenal season.
Phenomenal. Such
definitely
a joy.
have to give him some credit for what he did this year.
And just such a joy to watch, watch every single night. He brought it. Anytime he was on the field, Ben, he was 100%. Sometimes too much, right? Like, so he's one of those guys, you're like, hey, rein it in a little bit, dog. It's a long season. The dude plays so hard his helmet flies off at every turn, Ben. That's how hard he plays. I loved Ha-Seong Kim. I loved his improvement. I loved all of it. He's an absolute delight to watch play the game. And if you've got kids, you say, play like him. That's how you do it.
Obviously, there were some disappointing seasons as well through poor performance, injuries, and other factors. Jake Cronenworth had a really tough year, obviously.
He was my pick to click.
Yeah.
I really, and we talked to him about it in spring training, too. I just said, bro, you're going to be the forgotten man down there in the 6 hole, and you are going to reap the benefits of all these guys on base. They're gonna forget about you, and he was all in favor of it. And with Jake obviously getting hit and didn't really have a chance to rebound and have a good second half, getting banged on the wrist. So I still love Crony. I love him as a person. One of my favorite Padres. Plays hard every single time out as well. He's got a hit next year. He just has to.
Pitching wise, Joe Musgrove was actually quite good when he was out there.
When he was out there, he was great.
Just had some bad luck and some weird stuff that happened to him this year. The good news is, I don't know if you saw the report, that Joe says he's feeling really good. And if they had needed him, he could have ramped up at least by the division series. Felt like he was going to be able to pitch in October, and he'll go through a normal postseason, throwing program. And sounds like whatever was bothering him, he'll be good to go for next season, hopefully. So that was some good news about Joe Musgrove over the weekend.
I mean, bright spots, in the bullpen, Tom Cosgrove and Tom Crosgrove, both really good seasons. Pedro Avila showed us something there towards the end of the season. Blake Snell was incredible, just incredible to watch. He's going to win a Cy Young, which he absolutely deserves. And, other than that, Darvish, it was a really tough go for him. Just could never get locked in, could never get fully healthy.
Had some good starts. Just kept not quite getting all the way to being Darvish.
Very un-you-like for him. And that guy cares a lot, man. He really, really does. I'm expecting a bounce-back season for him next season.
All right, well, let's take a time out. We'll come back. Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue will join us.
He's bummed, dude.
On a Grand Old Monday. He's a Mariners fan. Mariners and Padres always seem to be linked at the hip for some reason.
Yeah, they really do.
Now, both suffering bummer, depressing seasons that come to an end a lot earlier than they thought they were going to. We'll look at the actual playoff matchups, though, and some of the other big stories that they're covering at Cespedes with Jordan coming up next on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Fan is brought to you by The Farmer's Dog. Fresh, human-grade dog food delivered right to your door. From better poops to more energy. When you switch to your dog's food to The Farmer's Dog, the effects can feel magical.
Better poops.
What sorcery is this? None at all. It's just real food made for the health of dogs. Get 50% off your first box at thefarmersdog.com/no-magic. Does Adam Wainwright know about this? New dog owner, Adam Wainwright,
I'm
after getting his
sure he does.
puppy at his retirement ceremony yesterday in St. Louis. I can picture Jordan Shusterman chuckling on the other side of our Zoom call. He will join us next on a Grand Old Monday after a check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto family, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Lowe's. Got a collision on the transition ramp now, southbound 125 right at the westbound 8. Looks like a couple vehicles involved in that. Get the appliances you need right away at Lowe's. Explore the largest assortment of brands you trust in-store or online at the best values. Plus, take advantage of our everyday financing offers. Lowe's knows home improvement, subject to credit approval. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, so let's go out to our premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline on a Grand Old Monday. Grand Old Barbecue presenting our weekly conversations with the guys from Cespedes Family Barbecue, baseball podcast, and just all around good guys this week. It's Jordan Shusterman with us here on 97.3 The Fan. Hello, Jordan. The season has come to an end for both of our teams, the Padres and the Mariners.
Oh, man, which was more painful? Kind of an interesting debate,
Sure.
I would say. I would say the Padres definitely more disappointing, but in terms of excruciating, sequences, I would say that the Mariners losing as they did and then helping the Astros win the division, that was really something to behold.
Don't sell short winning
14
14 of the last 16 games just to come excruciatingly, agonizingly close.
We were not close.
No, but
we were not close.
But they made it so that we counted, depending on your accounting, Jordan, Padres had about 25 to 27 games that we considered excruciating losses this season. One run that they had leads, that they were one fly ball away at the right time from winning. I'm not saying they should have won all of them, but they easily should have won about 15 of those.
We're talking leading in the 8th.
If they had
Jordan's team had,
if they had won
two
more of those games, they'd be in the playoffs.
Jordan's team had the teams in front. They were playing the teams in front of them. They didn't need the Reds to win one and to get swept by, all of that. It was right there in front of them.
Yeah.
That stinks, dude. That stinks.
And I think fourth time. Listen, I mean, we're just going to compare how miserable we are. Like, I know that's not the most fun listen. That's fine.
I like it.
We definitely don't have to talk about the Mariners. I'm enjoying that Woods is wearing a Marlins shirt. The Marlins are absolutely. I mean, of course, I'm rooting for my dear friend Jake's Orioles, but I'm so in on this Marlins team. But last thing on the Mariners, fourth time in the last 10 years, they've been eliminated in game 161 or 162, which is really, I don't think anyone else has had more than two, if not one. So that is,
I think it's only happened twice to the Padres in franchise history. The last day, obviously, the game 163 loss to the Rockies. And then 2010 when they had to sweep the Giants to make the playoffs, and they won the first two, but lost the last day of the season.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just, and it's you want to be in it until the end, but then when you get there and you don't make it, it's like, man, I wish we were eliminated 3 weeks ago. This sucks.
It's interesting, and not to twist the knife, but one of the most fascinating things I saw over the weekend, talking to our pal Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue on a Grand Old Monday. One of the most fascinating things I saw was what went down with Cal Raleigh and Scott Service and everything else. And how do you, as a Mariners fan, feel about it? If you missed it, Cal basically said, "Yeah, this sucks, and we should have done more at the deadline. We got to get more players. Look what other teams do." And then Service, I mean, the front office must have come down on him because Service made him apologize, and Service said he's got to control his emotions better, which I thought that was kind of a drag too.
I agree with that. I think a lot of it was the optics of losing to the team that has spent $800 million in the last 2 winters. I think that was a big part of it. And Corey Seager, thanking the owner by name for spending money. Also, literally on Corey Seager, so I can understand why he's thanking the owner for giving him $300 million. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but yeah, it was interesting and it was disappointing, and it was weird because on one hand, it's really hard for me to believe, but also maybe I'm being overly optimistic that Cal just wanted to basically be like, I didn't mean to, talk bad about my teammates indirectly.
Right.
Like it was clearly on them. But I think this is an interesting transition, and whether you guys want to talk about the statement put out by Peter Seidler this morning or not,
yes.
It is an interesting contrast when you think about all the conversations we've been having around the Padres, because what you just mentioned, what you just referred to with Cal Raleigh was being like, we need to go make the big splashes and actually go do these things. And to the Mariners' credit, they did do that last year with Luis Castillo, and it worked, right? And they extended him, and that was a huge deal. They didn't do that this year. They didn't do that last offseason. But again, it's not that simple, right? You can't spend your way to it. That doesn't mean they shouldn't spend more, but there has to be more nuance with that. As you guys have learned, it's not just about having an awesome fantasy baseball team. You have to figure out how to win baseball games. And the Mariners in some ways did have a lot of talent that didn't come together in certain late situations, but they came a lot closer than San Diego did, and certainly had a more successful season. But ultimately, when you're one of those last teams out, it stings, and people are definitely not going to be happy.
All right, since you brought it up, Jordan, I take it you've read the statement released by the Padres from Chairman Peter Seidler. Our question to you is, what does the phrase current leadership team mean to you then? Because they continue to have Peter Seidler's faith and full support. We're just trying to parse what that means maybe for manager Bob Melvin. Is he part of that team? Is he not part of that team?
I think you guys probably have a better sense of that than me, but
you would think
for
so.
Me, what is so funny about this is if you just describe the situation. But I mean, this is literally an experience I just had, right? It's Monday after the season ends. This is when people get fired, right? This is when people get fired. And so when I see the official team account post a big graphic that says official statement, I am prepared to read words that say we have relieved someone of their duties. That is the instinct. And so then to read the paragraph and just come away being like what you just said, which is just like, okay, so what happens next? Because to me, why come out and say anything at this point if you haven't actually decided something?
It's a good point.
Which makes me think that people are coming back. But all the reporting surrounding the discourse and the discord between Melvin and Preller makes that very hard to believe. And there is something in there that does say, it almost feels like Seidler wants to make clear that they are actively trying to do something, but it is strange. You don't normally see like the statement before the statement. That part feels unusual.
All we know is reportedly there's a meeting happening today at Petco Park. And we've been asked 1,000 times already this morning. What time? We have no idea. We know nothing.
Contrary to popular belief, Jordan, we are not part of Padres leadership, so they're not going to consult us at all with what they do. It will be an interesting day, to say the least. One of those days, kind of like the trade deadline around here, where you can't really focus on anything else other than staring at your phone and refreshing Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. It can go a number of different ways. I don't know too many of them are going to make me super happy. You know what I mean? So it's really in an interesting position.
And it's just so, like I said, it's just, I know I'm repeating myself, it's so weird to put out a statement like this to be, like, if they didn't say anything today, again, it's 8 a.m. where you guys are, like 9 a.m. Like, if there was no statement by the end of the day, like, it doesn't mean we don't think they're having these conversations.
Right.
Like, to come out and be like, we know this is like, yes, like I appreciate that. And I've talked a lot about like, how much transparency do you want from your owners, right? How much do you want them out there talking about the things that they're working on? There's a whole bunch of pros and a whole bunch of cons to that. And it feels like Seidler's kind of felt both sides of that. So just very odd, very odd. And if they fire Melvin and put out an official statement at the end of the day that basically says the same thing, except at the end it says, and also we've decided we're moving off Melvin, like that's weird. I'm just so perplexed by them deciding to say nothing by putting out a
It
statement.
was a
I'm
weird
confused by
statement.
that.
If they want transparency, then throw a camera in this boardroom and live stream it.
God knows what I would pay for that. Talking to our pal Jordan Shusterman from Cespedes Family Barbecue. Busy time of year for you guys. Honestly, the baseball season is a bit of a grind even for you guys, but playoffs are here. I know Jake's squad's in it. Your squad's not. You'll be pulling for the Orioles. What are you most excited about for this postseason?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how much teams are stealing bases. I know that we've gotten proof that the new rules have helped teams be more aggressive on the base paths, but I am curious if it goes in one direction of teams become more cautious because the instinct is every base runner is so valuable, or you view it the other way as, hey, it's easier to steal bases than ever. We're going to try and steal third in a situation you would never see in previous postseasons. So I think that's going to be really fun, and seeing which teams could take advantage of that in a big way. I think Arizona is an obvious one that jumps to mind in terms of a team that could maybe make some noise in a way that you wouldn't necessarily expect just based on the full roster talent. So that I'm definitely excited about. And then, as always, there's just some pretty significant stakes for some of these teams that have really disappointed in recent years. I think about this Toronto Minnesota matchup I'm really excited about. I would say that's the most even matchup for my money going into this week. And I'm working on the preview for that for Fox right now, and just thinking about the stakes of the Twins coming in with the 18-game postseason losing streak, and the Jays coming in with, I think, much bigger expectations, one of the most hyped teams in baseball over the last couple of years. And I would say that they have some similarities with San Diego with the way that their season went. Of course, it ended up in the postseason, but you look at the names in their lineup and you think, how is this not contributing to more wins? And of course, they still got in, but I would say them getting in is more of a relief than some sort of grand success. But at the same time, their roster is still really impressive. So we'll see. These series move really quickly. This week is quite the blur. I know some people don't love that they added the extra postseason team, but I think strictly from an entertainment standpoint, it does make this first week really, really exciting. So it's weird, no baseball tonight. I know that's, I guess, now true for the Padres in general, but for the average baseball fan, like no games in one night makes Monday a little weird, but yeah, I can't wait for this stuff to get started.
You get to strap it on and take that deep breath before the first game, and it's going to be great. I mean, so many good arms, so many good arms, so many sluggers. The Marlins going up against the Phillies is an interesting matchup because the Marlins haven't had some of their best players. I mean, some of their best players are injured. You wonder what like Luis Ariz is going to be able to do, if anything at all. And then you got to go up against Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper and all that. But I'm not counting anybody out of anything. If the Padres showed us one thing last year, the amount of regular season wins don't mean anything.
The playoffs, anything
fun.
can happen. I think we all acknowledge the Braves should be at least, nominal favorites in the National League. But the American League, Woods and I both agree, it's wide open. I don't think there's a result that would surprise us that much.
Yeah, not at all.
But it shows you how big. You mentioned it right at the beginning. How big yesterday was. Because, a week ago we were looking like the Astros were going to be on the outside looking in. They've gone all the way now to a bye in the first round.
Yes.
Their chances of a repeat increased from about 1% to something significantly more in the last couple days of the season.
Yeah, and I've been the person screaming, do not bet against Houston under any circumstance at any point until they are actually officially eliminated. Think about the flip side. Texas was the difference between 5 days off and hanging out at home waiting for your next opponent and flying from Seattle to Tampa Bay and having to play in 48 hours. Like, that is a heck of a turnaround, which is going to be awfully challenging. And then you also just think about from the standpoint of teams like Minnesota, teams like Milwaukee, teams like Tampa Bay, who've known or Philadelphia, they've known they'll be in the postseason for months. They didn't know who they were going to be playing until yesterday. And so that's another thing from a game planning standpoint, I think is also super interesting about this time of year.
And by the way, the fact that the Rangers lost to a guy who was doing tributes to Tim Wakefield on the mound on the final day of the season, that was pretty awesome, actually, to see George Kirby do that. And I don't know if you were a Wakefield fan. We haven't really gotten into it much, but sad loss for baseball yesterday, Jordan.
Absolutely. And we talked a little about it on the podcast we recorded last night. And on the Kirby side, of course, I remember watching Wakefield growing up and understanding like how rare and important and impressive a knuckleballer succeeding in the major leagues is. I talked to Kirby about this specifically earlier in the year, not Tim Wakefield specifically, but throwing a knuckleball. All the Mariners writers have told me all season, like, all George Kirby does is brag about how he throws a knuckleball and all these different things.
And his
I'm like,
teammates
okay,
said, you
sure.
won't do it.
So I asked him about it, and he's like, yeah, like I used in Little League, like I was fastball knuckleball. Like that was his thing. And then once he became, reached higher levels of competition, he was like, well, I don't need this, but I still work on it every day. And so I told him at the time, I was like, when are we going to see this? Like, when are you going to break this out in the postseason? You're going to break this out like 0-2 and at the end of an outing? Like, what's it going to be? And, unfortunately, but also in this really strange confluence of events, this tribute to Tim Wakefield combined with the Mariners having already been eliminated was apparently the perfect situation for him to break it out. And might I say, what a nasty pitch it was. That was not an average knuckleball. That was a perfect knuckleball.
And then number one Chandler Siegel fan, I actually looked at Paul and go, who's Chandler Siegel? And he goes, he's a Padre fan.
You just got called up.
You should probably know that.
Let me wax poetic about Chandler Siegel for a second, all right? Chandler Siegel got called up by the Padres this weekend as soon as they were eliminated, right?
Correct.
You say, okay, well, that should already tell you a lot about the situation here. But I respect the heck out of Chandler Siegel because you guys remember Austin Hedges, right?
No.
You guys remember the Austin Hedges
Sorry,
experience.
who?
Woods is shaking his head. And what is the Austin Hedges experience? What a catcher, but oh my gosh, he can't hit, right?
Yes.
But let me tell you, Chandler Siegel is that times 500. And I don't know if he's going to stick around in the big leagues for the next 10 years, but that this guy who had a 492 OPS in college to get drafted and make it to the major leagues is incredible and should tell you everything you need to know about how much of a defensive wizard
genius
this guy is. Okay.
Well, it'll fit
Look
right
at this
in.
guy's baseball reference page. It is Jeff Mathis times Austin Hedges times a billion. And I love it. I love it. He grounded out on Saturday at the first pitch he saw. I don't know if he's ever going to be back in the big leagues, but this dude is going to be in baseball for a long time because if you can catch and you know what the hell you're doing back there, you deserve to stick around. So to Chandler Siegel, I salute you. I don't know if we'll see you in the majors again, but that was one of my favorite moments of the weekend that nobody cares about.
So he's really rooting against robot umpires.
Oh, yeah. He's praying. That is phenomenal
I didn't
stuff.
know. This the Chandler Siegel information I didn't know I needed. Jordan, appreciate
Thank
it
you,
as
buddy.
always.
Appreciate it, man.
We'll talk to you in a
long.
couple of
Thanks,
weeks,
guys.
deep into the playoffs. Jordan Shusterman, Cespedes Family Barbecue with us on our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall Chevrolet. Find new roads, and don't forget to visit Grand Ole Barbecue when you're in North Pork,
Yes.
or Flint Springs. Not
do
at the
have
ballpark
pork
for
there,
a few
don't
more
they? Yeah,
months.
they got
But yeah,
pork
pulled
there.
pork is
North
delicious.
Pork.
I love the brisket, but pulled pork is excellent. Sides are really good as well. Just a fun time. Good
love
food.
it.
Good food. All right, we have 1 hour remaining. We will continue if there's any more Padres news, although my guess is the statement by Peter Seidler is going to be the old feeding of the media for the day. That's what we're getting.
I think that's it.
I don't know that we'll get more today.
Really?
Yeah.
We kind of have to, don't
Well,
we?
no, I think they're going to say we released a statement. We'll talk about it when we come back. Get some headlines from Paulie. Reindl Report is ahead and more on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Talking about the Peter Seidler statement that was released to the public this morning. Ben, you have it handy? You want to read it again in case people missed it?
I can get it for you in less than 10 seconds.
I will absolutely.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we go.
All right, so official statement from Padres chairman Peter Seidler. We entered 2023 with expectations that we would build on last year's NLCS appearance and contend for a World Series championship. We fell short of that goal. The Padres organization will learn from this season and emerge in 2024 with the pieces in place to compete for San Diego's first World Series title. Our current leadership team continues to have my full support, and I've asked them to perform a thorough assessment of our organization beginning today. We will make the changes necessary to play championship caliber baseball for our extraordinary fans in 2024.
So Dan Zimborski, who we've had on the show many times, tweeted, so basically, Padres ownership is happy to announce that Melvin and Preller have their full support up until the moment that they do not have their full support. Make it make sense, everybody is saying.
I was kind of surprised you when I said, I bet that's all we get from the Padres today.
That is staggering.
You're thinking that there's going to be some more news later today, that this meeting will come with another announcement and some decisions and some changes. My guess is that any questions later today will be referred back to this statement by Peter Seidler, and that's all the Padres are going to give us for now. Changes, by the way, shouldn't necessarily only take one morning meeting in the office. There should be probably, if you're evaluating every element of your organization, that's not you can't make all those changes in one afternoon. That's going to take, a lot of work to figure out exactly what needs to be done this offseason.
But if there weren't already dozens of meetings happening, then we're doing it wrong, right? Like sitting on the edge of your seat for some late season run, and it should not change anything at all, right? And I think decisions...
So you don't really believe them when they've said our only focus has been playing the best baseball we can to the end of the season. We're not really thinking about anything else until the season's over.
No. It shouldn't have
really been the message.
It shouldn't be the message. That shouldn't be you could say it, but that shouldn't be what's going on. If you're not constantly looking at what's gone wrong and they had a 5-6 month... April, May, June, July, August. They had 5 months of material, information to sort through. This good month notwithstanding.
Now, if you're firing anyone, you'd probably get that information out as soon as you can.
I would imagine, yeah.
But when he says our current leadership team continues to have my full support, I read that as we're not firing anyone today. At least no one in key major positions is going to be losing their job. And that doesn't surprise me. I mean, even if Bob Melvin leaves, they're going to try to work it out where they don't have to pay him next year. So they're going to, see if the Giants or the Mets want to take him.
Don't they still have to pay him or no?
No, not necessarily.
He's under contract.
They didn't pay Bochy his last season. Not if he leaves voluntarily to take another job. You don't have to pay him. So
fire me.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not going to fire him, which they're not going to do, maybe there's still a scenario where he leaves the organization. But my guess is we don't get an announcement today that anyone has been, at least in a key position with the Padres, has been fired. That's what I read from this statement.
How?
That's what I'm reading.
Well, reading Dennis Lynn's latest in The Athletic last night, he talked about people throughout the organization concerned about their jobs as part of the debt reduction. We haven't really gotten to that aspect of it all, right? I mean, what does that mean? Is that R&D? Is that coaches? Where are they going to be shedding more payroll, not just the players on the field?
Well, I mean, you can go from 3 hitting coaches to 1 if you wanted, and downsizing. That's not firing. That's just downsizing your organization a bit in the offseason. And maybe we'll get some of that news here in the next day or so. But
look, I guess I don't disagree with you entirely that that's the news and that's all we're going to get today. But I can't say that I agree or am excited about that I mean,
as Jordan said, if you're planning on a big announcement later in the day, why bother with that announcement right now?
Well,
there's no point to it.
I mean, Peter's the boss. If Peter texted the social media team and said, I want to address the fans, at least in some capacity, the morning after the season ended. Here's a statement.
But
run with it.
If they do fire anyone really key, like a Bob Melvin, doesn't Peter have to release another statement saying why? Or does that all come from AJ at that point? And Peter's, I already made my statement. We're good. I don't know.
Was it not just a way?
I was surprised we even got that from Peter Seidler today,
was
honestly,
too.
because everything leading up to today has been Peter's recovering from a medical procedure, and Eric Grupner is kind of the mouthpiece for the team right now in his absence. And
maybe it's just Chat G. Peter Seidler.
I don't need that today.
Go ahead, Paulie.
And get things started here with our today's edition of the Reindl Report.
Now tuned into the greatest.
Welcome to the Reindl Report with Paul Reindl.
Hi, Paul. All right.
2 stories from the world of sports that we haven't gotten to yet.
We'll start off in Major League Baseball.
And 1 story that you didn't know you needed.
Are you laughing, biatch?
It's the Reindl Report.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Okay, how are you?
On 97.3 The Fan.
Are you ready to bless the mood? I need some help, please.
That was good.
Can I get a yeah? Oh, yeah.
All right.
Chat GPT.
Chat
GPT or Seidler. Kind of works. Kind of doesn't work. A bit of a stretch. I get it.
Oh, it's a stretch.
That's stretch, all right.
We have left so much on the table for this Reindl Report for you. I mean, you could do a 72-part Reindl Report on things we haven't gotten to from this weekend.
Sure could. I was going to talk about Tim Wakefield, but we did get to that with Jordan. So how about we'll start with this baseball story. Felix Bautista hasn't played for the Orioles since August 26th. He was put on the injured list. The hard-throwing 28-year-old all-star closer for them, and he is not only going to miss
super stud
the 2023 playoffs, he's going to miss all of next season as well. They announced over the weekend that he is going to be going to have Tommy John surgery later this month, and that is just a huge blow for a very exciting team, man.
God, man. I mean, they're getting it done without him, but it's just one of those things.
Sure wish you had him.
What could have been. Right. Nice little weapon to have there.
At this point in the year, like the Mets couldn't use it as an excuse. They had Diaz was out all year long.
He was out
to
all
get to
season.
This point, and he hadn't pitched all of September really, but like to get to this point and then now know that you're not going to have him, and then for all of next year, God, that hurts.
It's rough, man.
That's tough.
All right, next up, just a random basketball story over here. The
basketball Ben perks up.
The LA Clippers. I would never do this story if there wasn't just something ridiculous to it. The LA Clippers announced their new radio voice, and his name is Carlo Jimenez.
Okay.
And the only reason I brought that up is because he's 22 years old.
Good Lord, that's awesome.
He is a 2023, a May graduate from USC. And he's got his first job as
entry-level job as the voice of the LA Clippers.
The voice of an NBA franchise.
He's in LA.
Did he go to their job fair? I mean, how did he get this position?
So,
22.
He's got a huge following on social media, big TikTok, 64,000 followers there. And he won a lot of collegiate awards.
How's he sound? Do you have any?
I don't have.
I want to hear
sure
some
I could find
Carlos Jimenez.
Has his voice changed yet?
I know, right? Come on.
Actually, I saw a story over the weekend. There's a 13-year-old who's calling football games somewhere in like Illinois.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How old were you when you called your first game on the radio?
Called my first game?
Yeah,
probably like 23. But
23?
it wasn't an NBA game or professional game. I did some high school on TV. High school football games on television in my early 20s, and then I did
that one mic and the wind is whipping through.
I was 26 when I called my first Padres game in spring training.
Ooh, nervous?
Very. Sitting next to Jerry Coleman.
That'll do it. It's like, hey, what'd you go get some ground balls next to Manny?
He was fantastic.
Was he nice to you?
Oh, so nice.
He took you under his wing?
Oh, yeah. He told me I'd be in the Hall of Fame by the time I was 39. Sorry, Jerry. You missed that one by, 8 years and counting.
He looked at you and said, "You'll be in the Hall of Fame, the Broadcasters Hall of Fame."
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't know.
What'd you do?
I don't know.
What didn't you do?
I didn't do it right, apparently. Jerry saw more in me than apparently was there.
Than you saw. And now he sits here with me. Oh, what a blow. Sorry. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know.
22
Kind of a
years old,
bummer.
man. Voice of the Clippers.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That is
Ben Higgins,
crazy.
26-year-old voice of the Padres.
He had done some work with like the Pac-12 network. He called USC like football, baseball, basketball games, and
It's awesome. 22.
22 years
What's
old.
his name?
Man.
Carlo Jimenez.
Carlo Jimenez. All right.
He's replacing.
I mean, there's nowhere to go but down. Now, I mean, you've nailed it. That's awesome. Good for him.
Pretty cool.
That's very cool.
See, you went with more of the quirky stories even on your first two. Like we missed, like Drew Holiday was traded to the Celtics. I thought that's where you're going with NBA. Or we
I
didn't
thought
get
this
to
was
any.
much more
We
fascinating.
didn't get to any
Much better.
college football. Like your Aztecs
haven't
getting
talked
their
about
doors
any
blown
college
off by Air
football.
Force on
Oh my
Saturday.
God.
Your Notre Dame Fighting Irish pulling out a last-minute win over Duke. USC Colorado turning into a
game?
much closer game at the end than I thought. I turned it off, and I thought it was going to be a 40-point rout, and ended up being a 7-point game at the end. We didn't get to any of that. I was waiting for Paulie to bring it all, and he gives us a 22-year-old Clippers announcer
Well, we
instead.
can do college football tomorrow.
Yeah, let's just do it
and
tomorrow.
pro football
All right, fair
tomorrow.
Yeah, probably won't do 22-year-old broadcaster talk tomorrow.
Fair.
All right, and finally, any McDonald's fans?
You know that. You never have to ask because you always can do a Mickey D's story.
Yeah,
and I'm
well,
always here
I
for
got
it.
one. The McRib. It's back.
Really?
It is back.
It's always
Well, it is
McDonald's
always
has
back.
been weird.
But you make it sound like you don't like a McRib sandwich.
I haven't had one in.
Is it obscenely sweet? Yes.
No, it's the sodium. I feel like
Is
if
it
I
obscenely salty?
yes, massively salty.
Is it a little weird that they've created this patty that has
Of
like
the-
rib texture? Yes.
The bones, the way that it looks.
Would you eat one if it was sitting in front of you right now? Yes.
It's like the Burger King griddle marks. Like, come on, bro. You bought those like that. They have those grill. There's no grill
was
back
flame
there.
broiled.
It's not. It's not.
Flame broiled.
Maybe somewhere. But I think those are painted on. I do. I think they're painted on. Just like the rib bones are meat.
I
So
like
weird.
the onion tomato or the onion pickle combination.
it's a good combo.
on the
I never
McRib.
was a big McRib fan. Never liked to go to McDonald's to get a McRib. But like growing up, my elementary school, remember cafeteria food, like the square pizza. We had a ribacue sandwich, they called it. And it was the exact same thing. And that was like a godsend. But
The ribacue.
maybe I don't like pickles, so maybe that's what turned me off at McDonald's. But yeah,
From McDowell's, not McDonald's. They've got the golden arches. We've got the golden arcs. They've got the McRib. We've got the ribacue. That's freaking Cleo McDowell.
So the McRib is coming back. Now, we talked about the McRib about a year ago today because last year McDonald's did a farewell tour for the McRib.
Yeah, it's like the Stones.
And then they brought it back.
Kiss.
They did farewell tours in 2005, and then in 2006, and then they brought it back again in 2007. So this has been a trend for McDonald's to say something's never coming back and then bring it back the next year.
You'd
but
be really dumb to get rid. I mean, it sells. I mean, there's a reason.
somebody
People love it.
last week leaked out that the McRib was returning and McDonald's denied it. And then over the weekend,
You got us.
all right, it's confirmed it's coming back. So if
Does
you
it
want
make
the
money for
McRib-
the company? Yes, it's coming back. That's about the simplest answer you can get when it comes to fast food.
Pretty much.
Paulie.
It's our Reindl Report, the segment of Ben and Woods, brought to you by the Golf Mart. We got Sammy Levitt coming up at the bottom of the hour with his post-mortem for your 2023 San Diego Padres. Last chance to get some phone calls in next, 833-288-0973. Do you have a different read than I do to the statement that was released by Peter Seidler this morning? Give us a call. We'll get to you right after this check of traffic on 97.3 The Fan. You know, one of the saddest parts of the end of the Padres season is that every team is looking to go into October with a hot pitching staff. And even though the Padres were missing Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish at the end, every single one of their starters ended the season extremely well. In fact, they had 5 starters who all ended the year with appearances of at least 5 innings and no runs allowed. Everyone but Matt Waldron, who also finished the season quite well. He did give up runs, but Pedro Avila, 5 shutout innings yesterday. Michael Wacha, 7 shutout innings on Saturday. Nick Martinez, 5 shutout innings on Friday. Seth Lugo had, 8 2/3 shutout innings on Wednesday. And Blake Snell had, 6 shutout innings in his final appearance of the season last Monday. Every single starter going through that rotation.
3 of those guys are probably not coming back.
Right.
Maybe 4.
That's why you wish you were playing more games this year. And this October would be nice.
Yeah.
To actually throw them out right now while they are absolutely cooking here at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The Padres starting pitching was, we talked about the MVP, but as a unit, the starting pitching was so far and above what I expected this season.
I thought we would just outslug teams.
Considering Yu Darvish had a down year and Joe Musgrove was hurt, that should have been crippling to the Padres. Instead, they had the best starting pitching ERA in all of Major League Baseball.
More quality starts than anyone.
And even with a couple of...
Makes it worse.
Even with
Makes
a couple
it all
of
worse.
bad Ryan Weathers starts earlier in the year and some call-ups that, didn't pan out a couple of times, in the end, they kind of figured it out on every level with starting pitching this year for the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, again, the 3 of those guys most certainly are not coming back unless, you pay through the nose for Wacha and or Lugo. And then, of course, Blake Snell is going to get his bag. And then what's the deal with Nick Martinez? Is there an opt-out for him as well?
There is.
Cool.
Super duper. It just kind of goes to show you how weird this season is. There's been a lot of teams that have made the baseball playoffs with great pitching and defense. And they didn't have a great offense. They're actually kind of near the bottom in offense, but the pitching and defense carried them at least to the postseason, and some of them even made postseason runs with good pitching and defense. You rarely see a team have as good of pitching and defense as the Padres did.
And not get in.
Not only not get in, but have an offense that's loaded with superstars. Guys, multiple guys with over 25 home runs, multiple, over 100 RBI for Juan Soto, on-base percentage over, around 400. I mean, all the pieces were there for the Padres to have a great season. And, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. We've been covering it all summer.
Again, the most unclutched team in the history of baseball. They've got to be. They got to be up there when in unclutch statistics this season. Able to piece together and grab 2 extra inning wins late in the season, but had you flipped that script and gone 12-2 in those extra inning games, or even 500, it would have made all the difference for this team early in the season. So that's something to watch out for next year. You want to talk about momentum. I don't see a lot of momentum going. Like, I don't think, I don't know that Pedro Avila is going to come in and build off of what he's done over the last few weeks, or Matt Waldron, or any guys like that. Xander Bogaerts even. You know what I mean? If he's healthy, I think he's going to be a good player. But it can go the other way. Those ghosts of futility and extra innings, Ben, next season, even though it could be a new manager, could be a new general manager, could be 5, 6, 7, 8 new faces in the clubhouse, you can't do that again. Like, you have to figure out a way early in the season to get that monkey off your back. Those 2 late ones that we got this year, those are not going to carry over into April and May of next year.
I agree.
Find a way to get some close wins, some extra inning wins, by any means necessary.
It's better than maybe not doing it at the end of the season. But
yeah, it's better than going 0-14.
You haven't exercised those demons
at all.
Just by winning 4 in a row, just by winning a couple of extra inning games, by winning a couple of 1-run games. That doesn't exercise every demon. Now, an off-season exercises a lot of demons.
It wipes it clean. It's
a 0-0 record, and coming back, spring training fresh with some new faces and a new feeling, always a new environment. You could keep every single player on the team and every coach and bring everyone back. It's still a different team in a different year. There's always different circumstances that change things for any team, baseball or any other sport. So there will be a different feeling next year, but you could always, those familiar bad feelings can creep in when you do some of the same things, and they'll have to avoid that very carefully.
Yeah, and
early next year.
Make sure you find a way to scratch some of those out.
So Padres were still waiting to see if there are any big changes. Peter Seidler's statement of backing management, indicated we're not necessarily going to see anything, but the Giants acted quickly. In fact, they didn't even wait. Before the weekend started, they fired Gabe Kapler. The Mets did the same with Buck Showalter. I think, was it yesterday or Sunday? Saturday. Saturday, they fired Buck Showalter. So you got a couple of openings already that didn't wait until Black Monday. And the interesting thing is, both
Did they say fired? I just saw he's leaving.
He's not coming back. Yeah. The new guy, what's his name? David Stearns.
He's being introduced right now on MLB Network.
Yeah, he let Buck Showalter go, but Buck has never spoken to him. That's the weird part. Buck did a press conference. Like, I've never talked to him. So how did that work? Is it a fax? A text?
Does Buck have more years on his deal, I'd imagine?
I
or
would
is he
imagine.
expiring contract? You don't even have to say anything. Just let him walk away.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to go, but yeah, there's Steve Cohen and David Stearns right now. I get some mild AJ Preller vibes from him. Just looking at it's kind of the young, fresh-faced. Now, he's not going to look like that if he makes it 9 years. He's not going to look like that.
Well, I mean, wasn't he,
he's
instrumental in building the Milwaukee Brewers. He was their president of baseball operations and general manager until the end of last year.
It's Milwaukee, and now he's got an unlimited payroll, and now he's in New York. He's got an unlimited...
Does that make the job easier or harder?
Ask AJ Preller. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, obviously the media market where he is a big one. And expectations are going to be through the roof. Year one, there's not going to be a lot of ramp up, I would imagine. I know the Mets said they were going to pull back and do this and that, but he's got his work cut out for him as well. But I do think they're a stronger organization today than they were.
First order of business will be hiring a manager.
Yeah.
If Bob Melvin is leaving, again, big if, and he's got his choice between San Francisco or New York, what do you think he picks? What do you think he should pick?
Just knowing Bob the little bit that we do, I mean, I know he's a West Coast guy. He's got his home in Arizona. Right. I would guess San Francisco. Yeah. I would absolutely guess that.
I would guess it's done within
even though that
24
team
hours.
Feels like it's further away, possibly.
Well, but Farhan has now come out and said, hey, by the way, we're done. We're not going to do this 1 and 2 year deal bit anymore. We're going to get stars in here. So I think that's also... Bob's worked under guys like that. Now he's working for one now that did not work out. They
tried. They didn't land Arson Judge or
Correa. And I think they're probably better for it, in at least the Correa move.
But that shows that they were there. They were trying to do that, and now Farhan's backing it up.
But I do think if you're a player and you're a free agent and you get the chance to play for Bob Melvin, I mean, I've heard it from a bunch of different players and guys that have played for him and played with him and played under him. They all said, yeah, dude, that's the guy you want to play for.
I also think New York is simply taking the same situation you just had in San Diego and putting different pieces in there, but you're kind of doing it again. And my guess is that that's not going to be as appealing to Bob Melvin. To do it in the cauldron that is now the New York media market after already slogging through it in San Diego, I'd say he's much more likely to take the Giants job.
I would think so too. I think that's probably a better fit for him. Just he's played there, I mean, he knows
and that would terrify me.
The city.
Of course.
What?
Bob Melvin goes to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Not that we have any history with letting a manager go to the Giants and maybe, watching them win 3 World Series titles under said manager.
Yeah. What's up?
All right, Sammy Levitt standing by. We will get a postmortem from our pre- and post-game show host. Got to see him over the weekend as well. Love having Sammy on. That's coming up next on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Got Sam Levitt standing by first. Baseball fans, for behind-the-scenes coverage of the 2023 MLB postseason, check out Baseball Isn't Boring. Host Rob Bradford brings you the biggest news from around the league each day. Follow Baseball Isn't Boring on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, off into the sunset goes Sammy for another offseason. Hibernation, can sleep for the next 4 months and wake up at spring training next year in Peoria, Arizona.
He should go to Peoria now just to stake out a
Good
really
spot.
good spot. Yeah.
We will get to Sammy after our last check of traffic here on 97.3 The Fan.
From the Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad Traffic Center, part of the Premier Auto Family, here's Kelly Danick.
Traffic is sponsored by Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change, your 15-minute instant drive-thru oil change. A couple of problems wrapping up our morning drive. Collision over the right shoulder on westbound 52 near Convoy. Also westbound 8 just past Taylor Street. There is a collision with clearing stage over to the right shoulder. And watch out for some debris in middle lanes on southbound 5 right before Genesee. Stop by any of the 30 San Diego Valvoline Instant Drive-Thru Oil Change centers. You don't have to get out of your car, and it usually only takes 15 minutes or less. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for discounts and locations nearest you. Valvoline Oil Change centers are open 7 days a week. I'm Kelly Danick with Ben & Woods, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
All right, I know there are diehard Padres fans who never miss a game out there. Season ticket holders, you're there almost every single day. You watch or listen to almost every single game on the radio with few exceptions. But there are very few people who can really say that they watched as much Padres baseball this year as Sam Levitt did, our pre- and post-game show host, who joins us now on our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Sammy, what was your final total? 158, 159?
158. That's after 157 last year. Only reason, though, I didn't go 162 for 162 last year plus postseason was because I got sick. So I was almost perfect last year. Not near perfect this year, but pretty close. But pretty good, especially considering the time in Peoria. I think pretty good.
Absolutely. A lot of baseball consumed by our beloved Sammy Levitt this season. Great job, number one, as always. Thank you to everybody who jumped on this show this year. We forgot to do that. We can do that tomorrow. That helped make our coverage great, and it's because of people like Sammy. But, all right, so I'm sure, Sammy, you saw the statement this morning from Padres chairman Peter Seidler. It really leaves a lot to speculate about. What were your initial thoughts?
I'm with you guys. I don't totally know what to make of it. It's a little interesting that no names were used, right? Because if it was for certain that certain people were returning, maybe there would be names. I agree. I think for today that may be all we get. I'm not totally sure what to make of it, just like you guys. I thought using the current leadership group or whatever exactly it said there was, interesting in the evaluation. I think these are all things that we kind of knew were happening already, but I don't totally know what to make of it. I think there was wiggle room there for interpretation. And again, I suppose think it was interesting that there was that wiggle room left, but that's about all I've got on it. I'm not totally sure, and to me, when I was listening earlier, sounded like you guys were kind of in that camp as well. So I'm not totally sure what exactly that means. And look, we all seem to know at this point that there is some sort of evaluation going on, whether that is today, whether that is throughout the week. Look, other teams like the Mets and the Giants, they're moving swiftly right now, obviously. And you would imagine if there are going to be changes, whatever those are, we would have them pretty quickly. I would assume that's not a guarantee, but I thought the statement this morning left wiggle room, right? And maybe it was supposed to leave wiggle room. So that's
probably was.
That's what I got on.
I mean, when you say our current leadership team continues to have my full support, that means I support who are the leaders. Now, who that is, I have no idea. Idea.
Right now is current leadership. Does that mean Bob and AJ, and it means that they're all back? Could be. It could be. But I would think maybe it would be a little bit more pointed, right? If that were right now 100% the case. Again, Was there wiggle room left there to leave wiggle room for that reason? Because maybe things aren't decided yet. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if for today that's kind of all we get, and we'll see what happens in the days to come. But I'm with you guys. I'm not totally sure what to make of it.
Sam, well, we've parsed that line more than any others. How about these two lines? The Padres will emerge in 2024 with the pieces in place to compete for San Diego's first World Series title and the changes necessary to play championship caliber baseball for our extraordinary fans in 2024. Can the Padres make the argument that they're still World Series contenders while at the same time, reducing payroll, as has been reported elsewhere? If they don't bring back Juan Soto, do they still have those pieces in place? I mean, you can certainly say any team with Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado and Xander Bogaerts has the pieces in place, right? Like, you can make that argument that...
Can you?
Oh, I think you can.
Okay.
I mean...
How'd that go? We had them this year. So we're getting them back. They're here.
That's
we didn't make the playoffs.
That's the question. Then is that a true statement?
But you're losing the Cy Young Award winner. You're losing 3/5 of your rotation, maybe 4/5 of your rotation.
Talk about trading your best player.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I get that.
Let's run it back.
It's something that you have to say, but every team, I think, Sammy, and you'll agree with this too.
What do the Dodgers have that the Padres don't have? I mean, they have Freddie Freeman. Is he way better than Manny Machado or Fernando Tatis Jr.?
Yes.
You think so?
This year, yeah.
Well, this year he was, but next year, do you think, are you guaranteeing that Fernando can't reach those levels?
He's had a pretty GD good
He
career.
did.
They're in the playoffs.
Would you not think that, could Fernando have that kind of season?
Of course.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. They're in the playoffs, though, this year. That's what they don't have.
Could Manny have that kind of season? Yes. Could Fernando have a Mookie Betts level type year?
Sure.
So those are the two main pieces for the Dodgers. And then they have a bunch of other pieces in place that aren't particularly over the top expensive, the rest of their roster. They just made the right decisions. So can you build a championship team around two stars?
Can they? Yeah. Can we? Haven't done it.
Haven't done it yet.
Right.
But can do it.
I think, whatever way you want to look at it, the big difference between these two teams in 2023 was that one won 100 games.
Yeah,
and
had depth.
82 with a run at the end. I get what you're saying, Ben. Look, Manny is a great player. Soto is a great player. Tatis is a great player. But there was something different there, and that's like what you're trying to put your finger on. I think even right now is even beyond the roster construction. Is what is that difference right now? What was that difference this year? Despite at the end of the day, a lot of the numbers sort of being where they should be, right? Having a pitching staff that was second in ERA. I mean, there are some things numbers-wise that we're going to look back on, and it's just not going to make any sense how this team needed that late run just to get to 82 wins. By the way, in a National League that ended up being really weak. This is not a great National League this year. A wild card race that didn't take a whole lot to get in. No disrespect to the teams that did, but that's the reality of it. So I'll tell you what, though, I was looking at the payroll and the roster this morning, and they have a nice chart of it that really lays it out nicely in the Union Tribune this morning. And I've very firmly been in the camp of you need Juan Soto here, okay, because he's especially in a walk year, and I think you made the trade to get really 3 shots at bare minimum with him here, and I think, in all likelihood, I mean, he would be a big piece to this team going on the kind of run they would need to go on to get to a World Series next year, right? But you start to look at that payroll and the $200 million number and the pieces they need. It even for me, and I've been very much in the camp of I want to see him here next year, you start to see a scenario where, to fill out other parts of this roster and to just free up payroll, where that could be realistic. It's the first, this morning as I was looking at that, was the first time it kind of hit me.
It hits you when you see it,
Yeah.
when you see the numbers next to the guys that are coming back. That's when it really sinks in, and then you hear the 200, and if that's the case, it's going to be very, very challenging to do that. And then we're the franchise that let Juan Soto go in his prime instead of, and extended guys. And again, I point to who's the architect of those deals, right? Who's the architect of those deals? Some people say
it's not like the Padres are shy about extending players,
right? No, but some people say, well, Peter had a hand in extending some of those guys, and AJ probably didn't really want to. If that's the case, then that's the case. There's nothing we can do about it now. You can't throw good money after bad, though. And letting that guy walk in free agency after next year. I mean, it's, again, we're World Series or bust. We're also going to whack $50 million off the payroll and still be World Series or bust. It's going to be a tough putt, man. It really is.
Yeah. I really think this morning, as I'm looking at it, it's like there are some very, very serious decisions to be made here, right? Even beyond, Soto for next year, because I think when they made the trade and they gave away the prospects they did, we all said it at the time, right? And in fairness, this was before the Manny extension. This was before the Bogaerts deal,
Yep.
right? But we all kind of said, well, this deal, sure, you get 3 shots at a postseason run, basically 2.5 seasons with this incredible young talent, right? It's worth it kind of for that alone, but the bigger picture is you want to keep him here long term. And I do think maybe it's a little bit jarring now, just a little bit more than a year after that trade, to now be having this other conversation of do you move him to free up payroll? Do you move him to get some pieces back? Young pitching,
We're going to be the
something
Angels.
like that.
We're going to be the Angels. This is
You hope not, Woodsy, but I will say it is jarring in that sense, because I have and I've said it on my shows, like I've very firmly been in the camp of this guy in a walk year, like
monstrous.
Sign me up.
Monstrous,
I mean, how is that guy not going to be a part? If your team is trying to win a World Series, trying to win a division, all the things we thought this team was capable of in 2023, how is that guy not a part of it? But again, you start to look at some of the numbers and some of what they need, and it's kind of, for the first time this morning, I'm sort of thinking, oh, well, maybe that is the right thing to do. I don't know.
I think I need to address something, because I'm looking in the chat, like Ben's in hardcore and Homer mode, Ben. My point wasn't that I think the Padres are okay and are going to win a World Series next year and they're close to the Dodgers. My point is they're doing something so wrong that with the talent they have, they should be able to compete and have a similar win total to a franchise like the Dodgers. They don't have way less talent than the Dodgers. They're not getting enough out of what they have. They're not getting the wins out of the talent they should be. They need a massive overhaul of what they're doing.
But the Dodgers were able to sustain they're ravaged. Dustin May, Walker Buehler. I mean,
because they've
done a much better job in their organization. It's not that they have more talent. They develop better. Yeah. They have coached better. They have done everything better than the Padres. I'm not Dodgers loving when I'm saying that. That's a fact. That's an undeniable fact.
Ben, you do a great job.
The Dodgers have done things better than the Padres have. It's right there in their unrelenting string of division titles and playoff appearances. Now, in October, they've fallen flat, and I get that. And that's an indictment of the Dodgers and how they do some things. But you can't make the argument that the Padres need to figure out how to get more out of the, I think, undeniable talent they have on their roster right now in their system, that they could be winning way more games than they did this year.
In their
easily.
In their system and on their roster, two different things.
Well, they've had talent, young talent, exciting talent in their system.
Yeah, they play for the Mariners now.
Right.
Like they play for the Guardians. They play for
because the Padres haven't gotten out of their own system what they've needed to get out of it, out of the talent. They drafted talent. AJ drafted Matt Brash and all these players that have done well on the big league level. They need to figure out a way to make it work for them going forward.
Yeah, and not other teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Ben. I think, look, for next season and in the big picture of this organization, they have to start producing some of this talent and get them to the big leagues on their own team. It has to be, both from the payroll standpoint and just look around baseball. Look at, I get it. It's not perfect comparisons, but look at teams like the Braves. Look at teams like the Astros. Look at teams like the Orioles. that is sort of the new wave, right, of creating long-term sustained success is getting talent to your big league ball club and letting them flourish. And I think no doubt, that is something that has to be part of the equation both next year and in the years to come. And
AJ gets the talent. It's the flourish part that they have struggled with. Flourish. You got to get your own guys to flourish in your organization.
Absolutely.
And that has been woefully short the last few years.
And by the way, when we have all these discussions about payroll and we're looking at this on a Monday morning after the season ends, kind of scratching our heads trying to figure out how exactly is this all going to work and come together if you're going to go try to win a World Series next year. Well, having young talent that doesn't cost as much for at least a handful of years, it's part of it too, right? It works on I think a number of different levels.
It's got to happen, and you need to hit on some of these guys at some point. But Sammy, as always, appreciate your candor and appreciate all the hard work you put in this season, man. You are a delight, and you are beloved here in San Diego. Great work.
Hey, don't be a stranger this
offseason. Don't be a
offseason.
stranger. Come in, hang out anytime.
I won't. And thank you guys. Since the moment I arrived here a couple of seasons ago, you guys have been nothing but great to me. And seriously, having me on every day during spring training, and
so fun.
It was great. And for me, on a personal note, it's really helped me, I think, in this market, in this city, and what we do here on the radio side of things. So until we talk again, spring training, Sammy in Peoria, we got to do it again.
Can't wait, man.
I mean, are you
All
Margarita? Right. What's next? Margarita
off-season
in Cabo?
Sammy. What's off-season Sammy?
What are we doing here?
I'll be hanging out. I'll be around town.
Adam's going to put you to work.
He's going to put you to work.
Well, I'm sure. Yes,
Don't answer your phone for a while.
I'm sure that'll be part of it. We got to see. Maybe try to move over to Ocean Beach, something like that.
Nice.
Tier ones. Let me know. Should I go to OB? Should
OB
Sandy
is the
Lev
spot.
Go to OB.
Sammy
That's
OB?
the question of the offseason.
OB Sammy is going to be legendary.
I will say,
It's
Sammy,
legendary.
I saw the video clip you put out yesterday, your final sign-off for the 2023 season. I was a little outraged, actually, that you didn't throw in and with that, the 2023 season.
It's coming. Coming. It may have already been recorded.
Take care of business.
TikTok king over here.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Levitt guys. Thanks.
Our Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad fan hotline. Save money the right way with Premier Chevrolet of Carlsbad. Visit them today in the Carlsbad Auto Mall. Chevrolet, find new roads. We're down to just Ben and Paul on our YouTube feed for the last
I shut it down.
couple of minutes. Woods has already shut it down early.
I got a sick kid at home.
Hey, I want to thank everybody who streamed in. We had record numbers on the stream today, and everyone who was listening at home on the Odyssey app, Twitch, however you get your Ben and Woods. We appreciate you tuning in today, and there will be more of this all off season. It is going to be an interesting and spicy off season here in San Diego.
Maybe.
Well, even if they do nothing, it's spicy. There's no way to get around that. That's it for us. Coaches next. For Paul Reindl, Stephen Woods, I'm Ben Higgins. Have a great rest of your Monday from all of us here at San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.